this time, as the presiding officer, I'm going to call the meeting to order. I would like to ask Commissioner Brian Booth to say the invocation. And Commissioner Booth, if you would please remember the family of Thomas Thacker, one of our employees whose wife Marcia passed away this week unexpectedly. And we certainly want to send Thomas and the rest of the family our condolences and remember that family in our prayers. Please proceed, sir.
Dear Heavenly Father, as we come before you this evening, dear Lord, Lord, watch over us as we conduct the county's business, dear Heavenly Father, that we'll do it in a way that you would like for us to have it done, dear Heavenly. Lord, watch over the Thacker family, dear Heavenly Father, in their time of grief, dear Heavenly Father. Lord, if you'll go with them, dear Heavenly Father. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Present.
Commissioner Robertson.
Here.
Commissioner Tackett.
Here.
Commissioner Booth.
Here. We have a quorum. We are ready to proceed. I'd like to ask Pike County Sheriff Rodney Scott if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We also have one brief matter that the sheriff needs to take up, and rather than have him sit through the entire hearing, Sheriff, I believe you have your 2021 budget to present to the court. Is that correct, sir?
Thank you. My budget, has to be in by the 15th, so I've got each of you a copy, I think. Seven.
So, Sheriff, looking over the budget, it appears to be in order and accurately reflects the fiscal court supplement, as well as the appropriation from the Pike County Board of Education, and it would appear to be in order. Would there be a motion to acknowledge the Pike County Sheriff's Department budget for the calendar year 2021?
Motion.
A motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tackett. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson.
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett.
Yes.
Commissioner Booth.
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes, and Sheriff, let me say, we appreciate everything you've done working with us through the pandemic. We appreciate everything that the Sheriff's Office has done in tackling the drug epidemic. And your deputies have gone through a lot this year. I know they've had the concern over COVID. And again, on behalf of the fiscal court and the people of Pike County, we appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you, Judge.
Do I need to go ahead and sign this one?
Rodney, do you have the original?
If you have it, I can go ahead and sign it and Lisa can attest it.
They're all the same one.
Okay, I'll just sign this one,
Yeah.
Lisa.
I'll bring it to you tomorrow.
All right. Do we have anyone from the clerk's office here with their budget? If not, then we are ready to proceed with regard to the public hearing on the Suddenlink issue. Before we begin taking testimony, I do have a statement that I need to make. In addition to not being able to regulate internet service, as a preliminary matter, we also do not have legal authority to regulate rates. So in regard to any issues about rates, that information is probably will not be pertinent other than the fact that if the customers were not given adequate notice of rate changes. So this afternoon, the Pike County Fiscal Court will conduct a public hearing pursuant to Section 10B of Ordinance Number 0-06-07-04.014, which I will refer to as the ordinance, to determine whether or not Sequel 3 Communications 2 LLC, DBA Suddenlink Communications, which I will refer to as Suddenlink, has violated any of the provisions of the ordinance. Following this public hearing, the fiscal court shall determine whether or not any violation has occurred, whether Suddenlink is in default of its obligation under the terms of the cable franchise agreement between the county and Suddenlink, and determine whether Suddenlink should pay liquidated damages to the county. All interested parties, including Suddenlink, will be given an opportunity to present evidence at the public hearing. Section 10A2 of the ordinance provides that for failure to comply with Section 24 of the ordinance, liquidated damages may be recoverable from the letter of credit in the amount of $200 per day or part thereof that the violation continues. Section 10A3 of the ordinance provides that for failure to comply with any other provisions of this ordinance, liquidated damages may be recoverable from the letter of credit in the amount of $100 per day or part thereof that the violation continues. Section 10B of the ordinance provides that before the county may assess any liquidated damages under Section 10, and before any sums are withdrawn from the letter of credit, the county shall give Suddenlink written notice and an opportunity to be heard in the county, in accordance with the following procedure. The county shall notify Suddenlink in writing of an alleged failure to comply with the provisions of this ordinance as outlined in Section 10A, which notice shall specify the alleged failure. Suddenlink shall, within 15 days after receipt of the notice, either cure the alleged failure or in a written response to the fiscal court, either present facts and arguments in refutation or excuse of such alleged failure, or state that the alleged failure will be cured and set forth the method and time schedule for accomplishing such cure. If Suddenlink fails to cure and or fails to notify the county as provided in the preceding paragraph within 15 days, the fiscal court shall hold a public hearing to determine whether or not any violation has occurred. Notice of such public hearing shall be sent out not less than 7 nor more than 21 days before the hearing. That notice has been given in accordance with the ordinance. Following the public hearing and a majority vote of the fiscal court finding that a failure to comply with the provision of the ordinance has occurred, the fiscal court may issue a written decision ordering liquidated damages in accordance with Section 10 of the ordinance. As required by the ordinance, I notified Suddenlink by letter dated September 10, 2020, of the company's specific failures to comply with multiple provisions of the ordinance. Section 7, Section 8A, 8B, Section 24A, 24C, 24E, Section 24G, Section 25B, subparagraph 2, Section 25B5, Section 25C3, and Section 25C4. This time, I will move that my letter to Suddenlink dated September 10, 2020, and all the attachments thereto shall be made part of the record of the hearing if there's no objection by any member of the court. In response, on October 15, 2020, Suddenlink sent a letter to me. At this time, I'm going to move that Suddenlink's letter of October 15, 2020, and all attachments thereto may be made part of the record of this hearing if there's no objection by any member of the court. After reviewing the October 15, 2020 letter and all the attachments thereto, the county determined that Suddenlink had failed to cure its failure to comply with the following provisions of the ordinance: Section 7, Section 8A, Section 8B, Section 24A, Section 24C, 24E, Section 24G, Section 25B2, Section 25B5, Section 25C3, and Section 25C4. and/or Suddenlink failed to present facts and arguments in refutation or excuse of such failure with said provisions of the ordinance, and/or Suddenlink failed to state that its failure to comply with said provisions of the ordinance would be cured and set forth the method and time schedule for accomplishing such cure. In light of the fact that Suddenlink failed to cure and/or failed to present facts and arguments in response or excuse of such failure with the above-mentioned provisions of the ordinance, and/or failed to state that its failure to comply with said provision of the ordinance would be cured, and failed to set forth the method and time schedule for accomplishing such cure, the county notified Suddenlink that the fiscal court would hold a public hearing to determine whether or not any violation has occurred. Notice of the public hearing was emailed to Suddenlink on December 31st, 2020, and on January 6, 2021, and published in the local paper on December 31st, 2020, and January 8, 2021. I would also move that we attach a copy of those notices published in the Appalachian News Express be made and entered into evidence as Exhibit Number 3, if there's no objection. Now, at this time, I'm going to present the county's evidence that Suddenlink has failed to comply with the following provisions of the ordinance. And before I begin, let me say that in the 2 years that this administration has been in office, we have repeatedly attempted to work with Suddenlink to address these issues. We have had multiple staff members, including Mr. Jeff Coleman and Mr. Justin Maynard, and formerly Mr. Vincent Ratliff, work on this issue. The issues that we have had to address range from failure to timely provide service, issues with billing, failure to promptly respond to service calls, and numerous other complaints. With regard to the county's evidence on this issue, Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 7 of the ordinance, which required Suddenlink to furnish to the county a certificate of insurance reflecting required coverages, signed renewal certificates for expiring policies, and new certificates of insurance if policies or carriers change during the terms of the franchise, showing compliance with the ordinance. Attached to Suddenlink's October 15, 2020 letter were 2 certificates of insurance. The certificates attached to the October 15 letter do not cure Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 7 of the ordinance for the following reasons. Sequel 3 Communications 2 LLC is not listed on either of the certificates of insurance. Because the exact entity that is operating the television service here in Pike County is not listed on the certificates attached to the October 15, 2020 letter, there is no proof of coverage. A policy endorsement as to an additional insured party should have been provided pursuant to the ordinance. In addition, the certificate dated August 14, 2006 expired on June 30, 2007. Section 7C1E of the ordinance requires Suddenlink's certificate of insurance to list as additional insureds Pike County, its elected and appointed officials, employees, and to the extent they have an insurable interest, its agents, boards, consultants, assigns, volunteers, and successors in interest. The certificates attached to the October 15, 2020 letter do not contain the required endorsement. Regarding the certificates attached to the October 15th letter, each contains a box stating the county is an additional insured. However, elsewhere on the certificates is language stating, quote, a statement on this certificate does not confer rights to insist certificate holder in lieu of such endorsements. So these certificates clearly do not establish that the county is an additional insured as required. The certificates of insurance attached to the October 15, 2020 letter states that Suddenlink has a self-insured retention for general liability. This certificate has a $1 million self-insurance retention. Essentially, that means that Suddenlink does not have insurance coverage for the first $1 million of liability that may be imposed against them. Thus, if Suddenlink is unable to pay the first $1 million, the county would not be paid that amount, nor would any claimant. Because of the self-insurance retention, Suddenlink has clearly not met the insurance requirement under the general liability provisions of the ordinance. In addition, Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 8A of the ordinance, which states that Suddenlink shall arrange for and shall deposit with the county, a letter of credit from a financial institution or performance bond in the amount of $15,000. Suddenlink has also failed to comply with Section 8B of the ordinance, which states that the letter of credit or performance bond shall be maintained at $15,000 during the entire term of the franchise. Attached to the October 15, 2020 letter was a letter of credit dated August 18, 2015, which does not cure Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 8A and Section B of the ordinance for the following reasons. The letter of credit is issued solely to Sequel Communications, LLC. Sequel 3 Communication 2, LLC was granted as a franchise by the county. Sequel Communications LLC is not the franchise holder, and so this letter of credit does not bind the issuer to Sequel 3 Communications 2 LLC. Potential default of the franchise agreement obligation and therefore does not meet the requirements of the ordinance. The letter of credit also states that it expires on July 31st, 2016. The letter of credit seems to indicate that it could be extended for additional one-year terms, but also says the issuer can terminate the letter on 30 days' notice. The language of the letter of credit is contradictory regarding its expiration term and appears to be currently expired. Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 24A of the ordinance, which states that Suddenlink shall keep, and maintain all parts of the system in good condition throughout the entire franchise period. In September 2020, the county compiled a list of complaints from Suddenlink customers. Said list was attached to the September 10th letter that I sent to Suddenlink. I will refer to this as a county list of complaints. Additionally, Suddenlink attached a complaint log and a listing of resolution of complaints to this letter of October 15th. I will refer to these as Suddenlink complaint logs. In light of the multiple service interruptions that Suddenlink's customers in the county have experienced, it appears that Suddenlink has failed to keep, and maintain all parts of its cable system in good condition throughout the entire franchise period. 4. Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 24C of the ordinance, which states that Suddenlink shall render efficient service, make repairs promptly, and interrupt service only for good cause and for the shortest time possible. Such interruptions, insofar as possible, shall be preceded by notice and shall occur during periods of minimum system use. Both the county list of complaints and the Suddenlink complaint logs indicate that Suddenlink has repeatedly failed to render efficient service, make repairs promptly, and interrupt service only for good cause and for the shortest time possible. Both the county list of complaints and the Suddenlink complaint logs indicate that Suddenlink customers in the county have experienced multiple service interruptions. Additionally, neither the county nor Suddenlink customers have been given notice of service interruptions. Finally, most service interruptions are during the day and evening when most people watch television, not during periods of minimum system use. Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 24E of the ordinance, which states that Suddenlink shall continue through the term of the franchise to maintain the technical standards and quality of service set forth in the ordinance. Both the county list of complaints and the Suddenlink complaint logs indicate that Suddenlink has failed to maintain the technical standards and quality of service set forth in the ordinance. Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 24G of the ordinance, which states that Suddenlink may not add, substitute, or delete any programming or change or reposition any channels without first affording the county at least 30 days' notice. The county records show that since 2004, Suddenlink has not provided the county any of these notices of additions, substitutions, or deletions of any programming or any changes or repositions of any channels. Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 25B2 of the ordinance, which states that at least 95% of the time, Suddenlink will begin working on service interruptions promptly and in no event later than 24 hours after the interruption becomes known. Both the county list of complaints and the Suddenlink complaint logs indicate that Suddenlink has failed to meet this standard. Additionally, both the county list of complaints and the Suddenlink complaint logs indicate that Suddenlink does not routinely begin working on service interruption within the parameters set out in the ordinance. Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 25B of the ordinance, which states that Suddenlink may not cancel an appointment with a customer after close of business on the business day prior to the scheduled appointment. Both the county list of complaints and the Suddenlink complaint logs indicate that Suddenlink routinely cancels appointments after close of business on the day prior to the scheduled appointment time, or the technician fails to show without any notice of cancellation. Additionally, both the county list of complaints and Suddenlink complaint logs indicates that Suddenlink subscribers in the county report that Suddenlink has canceled appointments after close of business on the business day prior to the customer's scheduled appointment. Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 25C3 and Section 25C4 of the ordinance as it relates to credits and refunds for customers. The county list of complaints indicates that Suddenlink customers were unable to get either a refund or credit for service interruptions. In the letter date October 15, Suddenlink states that it has provided refunds or credits to those on the list. However, it is clearly not Suddenlink's policy to do so routinely. Now, at this time, we have several individuals, it appears, on the Zoom link. And at this time, if you would like to be heard, you're a Pike County resident, and you would like to be heard, I think the first one we have is Miss Erin Jones. So we're going to unmute her, and Erin, you will be the first person that we speak with regarding this. You hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Erin, would you please state your full name and tell us your address?
Sure. It's Erin Jones, and my full address is 4939 Tays Valley Road, Scott Depot, West Virginia.
And Miss
Go ahead.
Jones, you are with Suddenlink, is that correct?
Correct. I am at the Director of Government Affairs for Altice USA.
Okay. I believe your counsel is also present, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, you're going to be given an opportunity to speak after we have heard from our resident customers. So let's see, we have Miss Stephanie Richards. Stephanie, are you wishing to speak on this? Stephanie? You might want to, you need to unmute your mic, or we probably need to do that. Okay. We sent a request, Stephanie, for you to click on.
There I am. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, I would like to speak. So due to COVID, I work for the University of Kentucky, and I'm supposed. Can you hear me? Okay. Yep.
The first thing we need you to do is tell us, for the purpose of the court record, your full name and your address.
My name is Stephanie Richards, and my full address is 4039 Elkhorn Creek Road, Elkhorn City, Kentucky, 41522. And I work for the University of Kentucky. I have for 15 years. I served as a county extension agent, and now I'm based with the University of Kentucky on campus. But due to COVID, I am now working from Elkhorn Creek. And
are you a Suddenlink customer?
I am a Suddenlink customer. Yes, sir.
And would you proceed to tell us what problems that you've had, if any, with Suddenlink cable television service?
I'm probably off track right now because I'm more having problem with the internet service, but I didn't understand if that was part of this meeting or not.
The internet service is not part of the meeting. The county does not have the legal authority to regulate internet service under federal law. Federal law has preempted or preempts local and state regulation of internet service. However, if you are having trouble with the internet service, you can always make a complaint with the FCC. If it's related to billing or customer service issues, you can also contact the Kentucky Attorney General's office with regard to any issues there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, let's go back to this page. All right, we have Mr. Daniel Thacker on. Daniel's iPhone. Click on that one up there. All right, we've got someone on there, Daniel.
Mr. Jones, I'm unable to speak as I only have internet service. I'm only here to view and observe.
All right, Daniel, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, do you have video?
I do. I'm only here to observe. I only have internet service.
All right, are you, okay, thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, we have is Mr. Litton on here? Shannon Litton? Mr. Litton, I'm sorry. Is Mr. Litton on here?
I'm just here watching as a member of the press.
All right. Who else? Do we have any other Suddenlink customers that would like to be recognized? If you do, you need to hit, okay, we have the lady in the green. All right, ma'am, can you hear me? We'll send you a request to unmute. You there? Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. Would you please begin by stating your full name?
Peggy Milam,
How do you spell your last name, Peggy? I couldn't hear you.
M-I-L-A-M.
Say that one more time. You cut out on us.
M-I-L-A-M.
Okay. And Peggy, can you give us your address?
15088 Elkhorn Creek Road, Shelby Gap, Kentucky, 41563.
And are you a customer of Suddenlink?
Yes.
Okay. And what kind of problems have you had with them?
I don't know if you can see or not, but I'm going to turn my phone around and show you what we're trying to watch.
Okay. And really, we're having trouble seeing that. Do you have cable? It is cable television, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what kind of problems are you having with the cable?
Like this picture, it pixels all the time. It goes off, it stays off. Well, Jeff can tell you because I have called him several times and talked to him about it. And
You're referring to Jeff Coleman that works for the county.
Yes,
correct?
yes. And when we call Suddenlink about any problem, it takes us 2 hours to get someone on the phone. And then when we do get on there, if they don't like what we're saying, they just politely disconnect us. And then it takes us 2 hours more to get back on to try to get to a customer service to try to talk to them. And then when you finally do, they'll say, okay, we'll send a tech out. You be there? And I tell them, yeah, I'll be here. Well, they sent a tech out one day and it was like 90 degrees outside, real pretty weather. I waited all day till 8 p.m. that night on someone to come. No one showed up. Well, when I called back, she said the tech told them that it was inclement weather. They couldn't get to my appointment.
And obviously that was an incorrect representation. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. I mean, people wouldn't believe what we have been going through with Suddenlink. I have both services with them, but I'm not going to mention the other one because this has nothing to do with this. Is only cable today. But like the other day, I had a tech come to my house because we were experiencing problems. I kept telling them where the problem was at. I said, we've been told that the problem is in Anderson Branch, on a pole in Anderson Branch. So I had a tech to come and he finally went up there and fixed the problem. Okay? But when someone else calls in and complains below us, because I'm up near the end, our service only goes to Kelly Mountain. And I'm up on the end, and whenever someone below us calls in and complains about their service being out, they come back, the text comes back up here and does something. I don't know what they do, but then ours goes back out. And, you know, if they're going to run the service, they need to do the equipment. I mean, if they're going to keep the service, they need to order some new equipment and put on these lines, you know, and try to satisfy the customer. Don't come and fix one customer up, and then when another customer comes and calls in, take that service back out and go fix that other person. You know, that's not good business in my point.
How many times have you called them and had trouble getting through to the customer service rep?
Every time that I've called in, my problem has consisted since September of 2019. I have been trying to get the service fixed on different occasions. And like I say, they'll come, they'll fix it for a day or two, and then it goes right back out. I mean, there's other people on this line that has Sudden Link, but they won't call in and complain, but they'll get on Facebook and, you know, and complain. You know, they need to complain to the company that is trying to give them the service before they can get anything done.
Peggy, it is a common problem that people want to complain on Facebook.
Oh, I know that.
That is a common problem. Can you give me an estimate of how many times since September of 2019 that you've had problems with the Sudden Link television service?
From September till right now.
How many different occasions has it gone out on you?
Well, in the when it gets down real cold, like down in the 30s and the 20s, it went off. It would go off and wouldn't come back on till the next morning. If we were lucky enough for the sun to come out and melt the frost off of whatever piece of equipment it was, it would come back on. And then, like I was telling you, that one tech came out and he fixed it where it was staying on. But right now, I had to call the other day. I had to call Jeff Coleman, and he sent another email to Sudden Link. Well, I had a tech to come out, and I had a boss that worked with Sudden Link to come out. He told me that they were going to be doing work in this area Monday and Tuesday. He said, I'll have it off. He said, but I'll be working here, right here in front of your house and up in that holler. Well, they've not been here, but they've been on the creek down below me working. So people tells me that they've seen the trucks working down there. But our service is off right now. I have no service right now. It's off.
Have you called anyone from Sudden Link today about your service?
No, I didn't call Sudden Link today because that boss told me Friday that they were going to be back here Monday and Tuesday and work. So I assumed whatever work they were doing today below me was why the service was off.
Was your service off yesterday on Monday?
Yes.
And it's been off all day today?
No, it's been in and out, and come 4 o'clock this evening, it went out again.
Okay. Peggy, do you have anything else that you would like to add to this?
No, I would just like Sudden Link to try to get this problem fixed with what they're charging the people to try to watch and stuff. You know, I mean, if they're going to keep the service, they ought to give the people the service they deserve.
How many times have you called and scheduled a technician that the technician didn't show up?
Twice that I can remember. The one that I was telling you about, the weather, said it was inclement weather. And then they called me one time and said that the tech had another appointment or something. He wasn't going to be able to reach me that day, but they would reschedule me for another appointment.
Okay. Peggy, we appreciate you taking the time to contact us about this. It is important that people who are having these problems log in. They can still log in to the Zoom. And if you'll give me a second, I can give that. If you're tuning in to Facebook and you do not have the Zoom login information, the Zoom ID is 255-442-6521.
Yes, I have that.
Okay, I'm giving it to everyone out there who might be listening that wants to.
Oh, okay.
The ID is 255-442-6521. The password is 9, lowercase r, capital E, capital Q, capital A, capital V. Again, the password is 9, lowercase r, capital E, capital Q. Peggy, thank you very much, and your information has been very helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
I do have a Peg. Let's go back to her. I do have a question for her. Peggy, can you hear me? We're sending you another request. Okay, there you are, Peggy. Have you ever been given or offered a refund or credit from Suddenlink?
I had to call the office, and the guy in the retention office gave me a discount last month. And that's the only one that I have gotten.
And you had to call and ask for some type of credit, is that correct?
Yes, because they were raising the bill on me, and I called them and was explaining to them how our service stayed off and how we had to call, and that I had to keep calling the courthouse to Jeff Coleman to try to get something done. And so they gave me a discount on my last month's bill.
Okay. And how much of a discount did they give you?
Well, I only had to pay $38 last month.
And what do you normally pay?
At that time, I was supposed to have been paying $120.64, but they raised it on me and to 138 and some odd cents. And they got what it was. They gave me a promotion, and where I had both services with them. And they told me that if I combined both services, it would be cheaper on me than what it would be if I only had the one service. So I took both services out with them, and he told me that my bill would be $120.64. When I got it the next month, that's when they had raised it to 138 and whatever odd cents it was, I don't really remember. But anyway, when I called them back and told them, I said, you don't give somebody a promotion for 12 months and then take it back away from them at the end of that month. And he said, no, ma'am, you don't. He said, but I will fix the problem. And so a man named Zane in their office is the one that gave me the discount.
Okay. When you had other problems, service interruptions that you had reported, were you ever offered any type of refund or credit?
No, sir.
All right. Peggy, thank you very much, and we may get back with you here in just a minute, okay?
All right, thank you.
All right, and we're going to ask this time, we're going to ask Mr. Bobby Sullivan if he would turn his video on, and we can, Bobby, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Bob, can you turn your video on for me, please?
I'm trying to. I'm having communication problems here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, good. At least you can hear me.
There should be a button on there, an icon that you can click to turn the video on. It'll say
Yeah.
start video. It'll say start video.
I understand that, but it's not letting me. I don't know why.
All right, Bobby, we'll go ahead and hear your testimony. Bob, can you tell us your address, please?
My address is 211 South College Street, Pikeville, Kentucky.
Give me that one more time.
211 South College Street, apartment 35, Pikeville, Kentucky.
Okay. Did you get that? Okay. South College, is that right?
Yes. Yes.
No. Bob, do you live in the city or you live in the county? Obviously, let me rephrase my question. Are you covered under, do you live within the city limits of Pikeville, I should say?
Yes, I do.
Okay. That would fall under the city's ordinance as opposed to the county's ordinance.
Okay.
And, but you have also had trouble with Suddenlink too, is that correct?
Correct.
Have you reported that to the city of Pikeville?
No, I think the one commissioner is aware of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would recommend that you reach out to the city manager on that, or that you contact Mayor Jimmy Carter. If you contact Mayor Carter, I'm sure that he would be more than happy to help you address that. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this issue? If so, please let us know. Okay, at this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Jeff Coleman if he would come up to the podium. Jeff, we'll let you go up to the podium if you don't care. And First of all, I'd like to ask you just to introduce yourself and what your position is.
I'm Jeff Coleman. I work at the Occupational Tax Office.
And Jeff, you might want to pull your mask off because
I'm sorry.
just for the purpose
It's
of the.
habit.
Jeff, so you work in the Occupational Tax
I do.
Office, and you have been tasked by my office to be one of the county's liaisons to Suddenlink. Is that
Yes,
correct?
That's correct.
And you have been with the county for 2 years, correct?
That's correct.
And over that 2 year period of time, have you had an opportunity to field complaints from various individuals?
I have.
Okay. How many individuals have contacted you over that 2 year period?
Roughly been around 20 individuals, but at numerous times. I would have 20 complaints, but they would call back sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
Could you have a list of those complaints?
I do.
Can you have extra copies?
I do.
Can you pass those out for us? And are these limited to television as opposed to internet?
That's cable. Some of them is internet with the cable, but the way my understanding from the customer that it's both services. It ain't just one or the other. Whenever they wouldn't have one service, they wouldn't have either one of them.
Okay, let's just run through these real quick, okay? The first one, we probably need, how many more do we need? All right, the first one looks like Berna Blackburn on February 10, 2020, address 3321 Lower Pompey Road. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And the complaint at that time was that they had not had internet or cable in quite some time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. On February 11th, you had another complaint, both internet and cable, from Ruth Atkins on 105 Mount Branch Road at Elkhorn City.
That's correct.
And would you tell us the complaint that she made at that time?
Well, at that time, she had said that her internet and cable goes in and out periodically. That they called to make an appointment for someone to come out and received an appointment for December 14th. They stayed around the house the entire day waiting for the technician to arrive, but he never shown up.
And that was December 14, 2019,
That's
correct?
correct. I'm sorry.
All right.
Then they received a service charge on their bill and another date for someone to show up. But she assured me that there's no one that was there and there was nothing left that stating that the technician was at their premises that day.
Okay.
Yeah, she got a $60 service bill or service charge.
Jeff, you might want to pull that mic up a little closer
I'm
to your
sorry.
mouth and speak up, because we're trying to make sure that the folks who are listening and that we have an accurate record. So it appears that a technician was supposed to come out on December 14, 2019, that Miss Atkins stayed at her home all day waiting for a technician that never showed, and then they still received a service charge on their bill.
Correct, of $60.
And did you contact Suddenlink about that?
I did. I contacted or emailed Miss Aaron Jones.
Okay, and was anything, a resolution reached on this?
Well, Miss Jones, she did email back, and that's what's in the red, that they're looking into both of the issues. But sometimes, I don't know unless the customer calls back that the problem's resolved. Sometimes I think no news is good news, but I did start telling the customers to kind of call back and let me know. That way that I kind of know that the issue was resolved whenever they would call in.
Okay. All right. Then we have on February 13, 2020, this was a cable issue for Lily Powell.
Yes.
At Elkhorn City, Kentucky. Said this is Miss Powell called, said that her parents haven't had cable service in 3 weeks. Someone came out about a week ago and looked at it, but didn't have a bucket truck to do the repair work.
Correct.
Do you know if anything was ever done on that?
I do not.
Okay. Next one on February 13th, 2020 was Bennett Sawyers.
Yes.
Lick Creek Road. So Mr. Sawyers called and said that she hasn't had, I'm not sure if that's a typo, hasn't had cable for 3 days. Before then it would go out, and then periodically, especially in September, she lost it from September 29th to around December 1st. Says
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer's asked, did you contact Suddenlink about that?
I did.
Has Suddenlink communicated back to you?
Just that periodically, Ms. Jones would just email back a little, a reply every now and again with it.
Okay. And it looks like then Miss Freddie Clevenger on Elkhorn Creek called on February 14th, 2020, and said their cable has also been out for the past 3 weeks.
Correct.
Now, that's Elkhorn Creek Road. These last two complaints are a day apart, but again, different parts of the county.
Yes.
It says when the cable comes in, it is very distorted and couldn't be watched.
Right.
And all the channels were not there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You contacted Ms. Jones, who told you that she would escalate the complaint. Is that correct?
Correct.
And did you take by that or understand that to mean that she would try to expedite this with customer service?
Correct.
Repairs.
Correct.
Then Miss Carol Alley on Shelby Drive Fork called the same day, February 14th, and said that her cable goes off and then back on periodically every day for the last 6 months or so. When it does that, she loses channels for whatever reason.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then it looks like on February 18th, 8 days after the initial call, that Berna Blackburn from Lower Pompey called back and advised that her cable and internet both went out. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And she advised that it goes out daily at different times.
Correct.
Okay. You have another call that you fielded on June 11, 2020 for both the internet and cable for Marcelina Coleman on Pompey Hill Road. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And she called in and said that she hasn't had internet or television since April 12th after the spring storm.
Correct.
That she had called several times and received a service call charge for a no one home charge on her bill. She also stated that someone is always home and they didn't leave any type of documentation on their visit. There was one technician told her that they are not a connection point to hook Miss Coleman back up, and that she would call in again over the issue. I assume that should call in again. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you fielded that call as well?
I did.
And and also I need to ask you, this documentation, was that prepared by you in the ordinary course of your job duties here with the Pike County Fiscal Court? And is it a true and accurate copy of the complaints that you have?
That's what you see is what was documented off the emails.
All right. And then on June 16th, Sandy Hunt from Law Road at Mouthcard called with a complaint about internet and cable. Says she called in, stated she hasn't had cable or internet since June 10th. She also stated that all her neighbors are out, estimated to be 8 to 10 homes. So
Correct.
by that time, her internet would have been out her cable would have been out for a week.
Correct.
Thank you. All right, then we have on July 27, 2020, we have a complaint from Fred Boyd at Shelby Yard, Shelbyana, who noted there had been a fire in their community at midnight on July 17, 2020. They lost television and internet due to the fire. Called Suddenlink on July 18th at 8 a.m. Was told the earliest appointment to send a tech out would be Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020. Fred's doctor called Monday morning and asked why he didn't get Fred's reading from his SD card on his BiPAP machine. Told him the situation. He stressed how important these readings are for his adjustment, for his medical device. Says he called Suddenlink back on Monday at 10 a.m. and told them what the doctor said. They told me they would be put on the tech notes. It was a medical emergency and we get someone out as soon as they could. Still never seen anyone. So Tuesday he called back, spoke to Ann, and she promised she would do everything she could to send someone. No one came to the original appointment. Was between 2 to 5 p.m. and at 1:30 the tech called and says it was beyond his capabilities and does not have the equipment to fix the problem. So he called in for another appointment on Thursday, July 23rd, 2020. No one calls and no one shows, so he called again, was on hold for another hour as in past days. The lady told him that there's nothing in the notes, so I asked her if the tech came out, and she still told him there was nothing in the notes. Set another appointment for July 24th, 2020 between 2 and 5 p.m. And it said the tech arrived at their home and says he does not have the correct equipment to fix the problem, and to tell Suddenlink that they need to send out a ATS Aldous tech service that has a lift bucket and they have the equipment to fix the problem. And that appears to be okay. I have another complaint on August 11, 2020 from Anna Thacker, Blair Atkins Street in Elkhorn. She called that morning, said her cable's been going in and out since Thursday, August the 6th, 5 days before, due to a storm. She stated that what little time it was in, the image was blurry. She also went on to say her bill jumps from $103 to $118 periodically. And you asked if her neighbor was having issues, and she said that most of them have satellites. Again, Ms. Jones told you the notes that you have that she would escalate it to get someone out sooner to address her issue, and that she thought that there had been multiple issues with her service, that they would try to take a look and get it resolved.
Correct.
So at that time, a representative on August 11, 2020, a representative from Suddenlink told you that there had been multiple problems with Ms. Thacker's service. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then we had Ms. Peggy Milam call in, who was already on here and who's still with us. And Ms. Milam called in on October 5th, 2020. She lives on Elkhorn Creek Road, and her internet and cable service goes in and out periodically throughout the day, every day. Went on to say that the service especially goes out if it rains. She also stated that she was supposed to be on a special promotional plan for 12 months, and this price was supposed to be $120 a month, but the bill shows $137.93. That may be an issue, Ms. Milam, that you would need to speak with our local prosecutors or the Attorney General's office with regard to a consumer protection issue. But again, I think this does document that, that's 3 months ago and the problem's still persisting for Ms. Milam. October 5th, there was a problem with the internet and cable for Virginia Ratliff on Elkhorn Creek Road. That was also reported to Ms. Jones. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And December 21st, 2020, Miss Peggy Sweeney from Jackson Branch Road, Elkhorn City called. Said her internet and cable have been going in and out for quite a while. She stated that there are several customers in her hollow that goes out the same time every evening and doesn't return service until the next morning. She stated that she has epilepsy and is worried that something may happen tonight. She wouldn't be able to call out for help. She stated she's had to go to the hospital about a week ago, but luckily it was in the daytime. She was able to use her phone. At that time, Ms. Jones told you she was on vacation until Monday, December 28th, and it looks like an automatic.
Correct. That was an automatic reply.
Okay. Didn't get a hold of anybody from the court at that time.
No, did not.
December 29th, Shelley Phipps from Ash Camp. Ms. Phipps called complaining about her internet. We'll skip over that one.
Yeah.
Mr. Greg Belcher, South Leviza Road at Mouthcard, called on December 29, 2020. Mr. Belcher apparently called you that morning and said he'd only had internet service 14 days since September. Also said that their television, is that correct, went out from time to time?
Correct.
All right. You called Miss Jones. She said the service had been restored. It had something to do with the line splitter. Now, from your observation, it appeared that the areas that were most affected were Shelbyana with 5 complaints, 4 from Elkhorn City, 1 from Lick Creek, 1 from Mouth Car, 1 from Shelby Gap, 3 from Ash Camp. Is that correct?
That's correct.
In all of these, 5 were cable-only complaints and 10 were both internet and cable. Is
That's
that correct?
correct.
You made a note that several customers would call back multiple times until their issue was resolved.
Correct.
Did you also have constituents, residents of Pike County, tell you that customer service at Suddenlink would hang up on them?
Yeah, several actually.
And people, different people told you that?
Different people, yes, correct. Said that they had the sorriest community or customer service that they would just hang up. And then it's another hour and a half call back to try to get a hold of somebody again.
The complaints that you fielded, have they been similar periodic outages?
Correct.
Poor customer service?
Correct.
Technicians not showing up?
Correct.
Did any of these folks tell you that they'd ever been offered any kind of credit or refund for any of the outage periods?
I have not. Mm-mm. Just a few of the customers was talking about, that's how come I know about the $60 service charge. They would say they would be charged $60 for a service call, but they would never come onto the premises.
Did they tell you that any of the Pike County residents that you talked to tell you how long the wait times would be when they were able to call into customer service?
It would anywhere from an hour to hour and a half. Nothing short time, nothing quick.
All right, I'm going to move that we introduce as exhibit number 4 your notes.
Okay.
Your summary. These are summary notes.
Correct.
That you just jotted for your own.
Correct. Just for my benefit.
All right. And I'm going to attach this as exhibit number 4 to the hearing if there's no objection. Mr. Coleman, thank you very much, and you'll be subject to recall here momentarily. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Justin Maynard, Pike County Fiscal Court Personnel Manager, to come forward, because I believe he too has fielded some of these complaints. And do you have a printout, Mr. Maynard, of the complaints that you fielded?
Yes, Judge. Judge, Mr. Coleman and I had consolidated our complaints down as of August 26th. So I just made you a copy of additional complaints I have taken since that point in time, only related if they mention cable.
And this is since what time, Mr. Maynard?
Since August 26th of 2020.
The first one I have is August 17th, 2020.
Yeah, it's everything in red, Judge.
Okay. And again, were these complaints fielded by you in the ordinary course of your job duties with the Pike County Fiscal Court?
Yes, Judge.
And you noted these in this document you completed per my request. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And is it a true and accurate copy of the complaints that you fielded?
Yes, Judge.
Looks like the first one related to cable would have been, no, this is again skipping over complaints on August 17th, 25th, and 26th that refer to internet service. Again, we do not have the authority to regulate internet service, but we have also, like I said, made sure that representatives from the county and Commonwealth attorney are here, as is our county attorney, Mr. Kevin Keene, is here. Looks like the first call related that you fielded recently would have been Miss Donna Ramey on November 19, 2020, and she's on Elkhorn Creek Road at Shelby Gap. She related it on November 12, 2020, her cable phone and internet started going in and out. Internet service was intermittent. Cable has been resolved for the moment, however, telephone service is out. And she called customer service and they told her to call back at a more convenient time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Also, December 1st, Miss Helen Tucker of Elkhorn Creek Road called, and I know Miss Tucker personally, retired school teacher.
Yes, she is.
And she had tried to contact customer care numerous times during the month of November and never could get anyone to speak with her about her internet.
She had called me today and informed me that that issue also pertains to her cable service.
Okay. She did state that. She called back in.
Correct.
Says that the texts have been out to her house, one with no resolution, the other stated that they should have better service after he left. Service just never got any better and has continued to decline. Indicated to you that the internet and also will be cable have been intermittent, has been for over a year with no resolution. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
December 7th, 2020, Carol Hawkins, Pond Creek Road at Draft, and called in very upset. The internet's been intermittent for over 4 months. On November 25th, 2020, her cable went out and has been off ever since. So that would have been about 2 weeks at that time that she called in, correct?
Correct. Yes.
She did have a tech come out around November 28th. The tech confirmed that the issue was not in the home, but in the main line. The tech did a test to see if she was receiving signal, and the test confirmed no signal in the main line. The appointment was scheduled for a bucket truck to come out and repair the issue. Ms. Hawkins called customer care today to see what time the appointment was set for. However, customer care informed her that no appointment was ever made and asked you to assist her. Is that correct?
That is correct.
December 9th, 2020, a call from Josh Standifer, Brushy Branch at Elkhorn City. Called in, stated they were having trouble with internet and cable. Internet is intermittent as well as cable. Customer has been calling since March trying to get a technician to come out and look at it. Technicians have stated to the customer that they don't have to come out if they don't want to because of COVID. So since March, no technicians have been to the house. They have missed multiple telehealth appointments for their son at UK, as well as Cincinnati Children's Hospital. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So now we're getting into a public safety issue, it would appear. Bennett Sawyers, Lick Creek, said Miss Sawyers called in, stated that her cable had been out for 5 days at that time. Says a few of the places that have been out on that hollow have been restored, but her service has not. Then on January 5th, last week ago today, Miss Carol Alley from Shelby Dry Fort called, said that her internet had been fixed, but her cable was still not working. Most of the lower channels 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 18, 54 continuously stay out. She's tried to call customer service, but never gets an answer, and wanted you to have someone contact her regarding the issue. Is that correct?
That is correct, Judge.
All right. Do we have anyone else that's signed in, Judge Hickman? All right. All right. So at this time, I'm going to recognize, I'm not sure who wants to speak on behalf of Suddenlink. If, well, I'd like to do it one at a time. We'll open up Ms. Jones first, unless her attorney or counsel for Suddenlink would like to go first.
Yeah, I'm happy to go.
All right.
Did you have anything else to add?
We're getting some feedback on it appear to be on your end, but you can you're recognized on behalf of Sutherland.
Well, I want to thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today on behalf of all police. What's happening with this? We'll do our best here.
Go ahead. Can you hear me? Ms. Jones? Ms. Jones, it appears you may have muted yourself there.
Thank you. All right. If my computer is having issues, it might be overheating a little. I'll let Rob go ahead, but let me know if this gets annoying. But thank you for having us again today. For Altice USA, which we operate in Pike County, is Suddenlink Communications. And in response to your call for the public hearing, as well as the underlying notice dated September 10th, 2020, alleging Altice's violation of Pike County's cable ordinance, I come to reiterate, pursuant to our written response to Pike County dated October 15th, 2020, that Altice is in compliance with the county's cable ordinances and has remedied any substantive ongoing violations cited by the county. Altice continues its cooperation and willingness to resolve any complaints or issues that arise and remain focused on improving the level of satisfaction with our performance and services, providing cable and broadband options to the residents of Pike County. As to the substance of the county's allegations of noncompliance, Altice has previously addressed these in matters in its response on October 15th, which I know you did add to the record earlier, but I would just like to briefly summarize Altice's response regarding each one. As for insurance, the county alleged Altice has never filed a certificate of insurance. Altice responded to this allegation by producing the original certificate of insurance from the time of renewal, as well as a current certificate that meets all the substantive requirements of the ordinance. Any potential objections raised by the county's consultant as to form of the certificate or the supplemental use of self-insurance are without merit, since the policy and Altice's financial abilities are sufficient to cover the insurance requirements of the county. For the performance bond, the county alleged that Suddenlink never filed a letter of credit nor a performance bond with the county. Altice responded by producing a copy of the $15,000 letter of credit filed with the county upon renewal and a $15,000 letter of credit currently in place, which is sufficiently evergreen to cover Altice's obligation in the ordinance. Again, we believe any additional issue raised by the county's consultant with the existing documents provided are strictly form over substance. Maps for construction or upgrade. The county cites failure by Altice to provide certain required maps during construction or upgrade. However, the county does not justify this requirement to an actual incident of violation. For customer service and service quality allegations based on the record of complaints, the county cites violations of several customer service and service quality obligations based on a county record of complaints submitted to Altice on October 1st, containing 18 customer complaints. In its October 15th response, Altice pointed out that one complaint was from outside the franchise area and two others were from a single customer. As such, the record of complaints represents contacts from 16 customers over a 7-month period. Further, these complaints represent a rate of 0.11% just for the service area, compared to 99.89% of cable customers who did not file a complaint for that period. Furthermore, since issuing the compliance notice, Altice has reviewed all the complaints listed on the record of complaints and has resolved all of them, either through restoration of service and or provision of refunds or credits. As such, there is no ongoing or uncured violations based on the record of complaints. Notice of programming changes. Altice maintains on information and belief that it has complied with the notice requirements of the ordinance and emphasizes that required customer notifications have been completed. Call answer time. The county states the record of complaints contains several complaints from Altice customers regarding telephone wait times, which constitutes a violation of the ordinance. The telephone response times in federal law, which are mirrored in the ordinance, are applicable during normal operating conditions or those conditions which are within the control of the grantee. Most, if not all, of the period of the record of complaints was during the first peak of COVID-19 pandemic, which had a negative effect on Altice's ability to fill the usual volume of customer service calls and which would constitute anything other than normal operating conditions. Credits and refunds. The county alleges that Suddenlink customers have reported to the county that they were unable to get either a refund or credit for service evidenced by the county record of complaints. However, in reviewing the record, it is clear in fact that 6 customers in the record of complaints were issued a credit or refund according to the terms of the cable ordinance. To the extent Altice has resolved requests for credits or refunds in the record of complaints, this matter has been cured. The customer complaint log, the county states in its September 10th letter that on August 31st, 2020, the county requested to inspect the company's complaint log and that Altice was in violation since it had not received the complaint log to date. However, the ordinance permits Altice 30 days to respond to a request by the county to review complaints. Altice timely provided those records on September 18th, as evidenced by its later inclusion as the county record of complaints provided to Altice on October 1st, and as such, Altice complied with this requirement of the ordinance. Generally, Altice further relies on the responses in its letter to the county dated October 15th, which it respectfully asked to be entered into the record of this hearing. I believe it may already have been. And also hereby reserves any other defenses and remedies available to it under the ordinance at law and in equity. Lastly, as to the substance of any complaints or issues that have come to the county's attention since its September 10th letter, my colleagues and I are prepared to receive any further information provided by you and your residents and to respond and resolve customer issues as soon as possible. Thank you again for allowing me to appear before you today. I urge the county to refrain from making a formal finding for liquidated damages under the ordinance based on Altice's letter of October 15th and the testimony given here today. And I'm always happy to respond to questions that you may have at this time.
First of all, we appreciate your prepared remarks, and we have heard testimony today that plainly from Ms. Peggy Milam that refute your statement. She has said that she has had trouble with her service going all the way back to September of 2019. Of course, that would be 5 to 6 months before the COVID-19 pandemic. Regardless, there are also issues with people being hung up on. I don't think federal law nor state law allows your customer service technicians to hang up on people simply because they're in the middle of a pandemic. The letter of credit that you provided is plainly deficient. That letter of credit was dated first of all, we have a letter from Seabridge, which is apparently a predecessor, dated August 15, 2006. That letter of credit would have expired, and it was a 12-month letter of credit. You also provided a letter of credit from J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, dated August 18, 2015, and it notes specifically, Ms. Jones, that it expires on July 31st, 2016. The county has not, in fact, received a current line of credit. Please introduce yourself and.
Yes, sir. My name is Robert Hawk. I'm Senior Counsel for Government Affairs for Altice. My address is 70 Davis Avenue, White Plains, New York. I just wanted to respond with regard to the question about the updated letter of credit. First of all, the earlier Seabridge document was provided because the allegation, just technically the allegation by the county was that we have never provided a letter of credit. And so in light of that, we provided the original document from the renewal as well as the letter that is in place right now. I want to note that it was pointed out in the testimony earlier that it says that that the letter expires July 31st, 2016, but the complete line from the letter of credit was not read at that time, in which it states, on July 31st, 2016, or any automatically extended expiry date as provided herein. The document does, the letter itself does automatically renew on the anniversary of the expiration. So it is not ineffective. If there's an additional clarification that you like, we can go to the bank, to the holder of the letter of credit. But I've been advised by both the bank and our risk management department that the letter is fully in effect and evergreen.
Well, first of all, sir, I appreciate your response, but I think it's insufficient. I mean, I'm not sure where you live, but apparently you live in New York. But if you're in Kentucky and you get stopped by the police and you don't have proof of insurance, you get a ticket. This line of letter of credit specifically states that it expires in 2016. Now, am I to take your word for it? I don't know you. I don't know Ms. Jones. And my responsibility is not to you, it's to the people of this county. And if you have a letter of credit in place, it would be very simple to call your bank and say, can you send Pike County a letter of credit? All you had to do, you didn't do that. You also have a $1 million retention on your general liability insurance. That is in violation of the ordinance. Now, I don't know anything about your company, but with the complaints we've had on customer service and with the technical problems, it raises a concern to me as to whether or not you do have sufficient resources to cover any obligation that may be owed to a member of the public or the county. The insurance is required to be $1 million. It is not required to be $1 million excess over $1 million self-insured retention. So those are clear violations, in my opinion. Now, the fiscal court may disagree with me. But, we have had, I should not, in this fiscal court in county, should not be in the position of having to police and be de facto customer service representatives for your company. And that's what it's come down to. And these complaints have not been resolved. There have been problems with the city of Pikeville, Prestonsburg, and other communities with your company. So regardless of, if you want to clarify this and provide to us an insurance policy with $1 million of coverage that has no self-insured retention, that would be in compliance. If you can call your bank, just call them up and get a letter saying that you have a line of credit in place. That's required by the ordinance. And, I think Ms. Milam's testimony in and of itself, that she's had problems with your company for over a year. Most of those complaints, or a lot of those complaints, were before, and Ms. Milam is here, she can raise her hand if I'm incorrect, but a lot of those complaints were prior to the pandemic. And I understand, you don't have to explain to me the situation with the pandemic, but sending a technician out to someone's house when you make an appointment and you don't have someone show up. Now, what's not in the record are the numerous communications that I've had with Pike County residents over these very issues. And, there's been a little bit of confusion. This hearing was previously scheduled for December. It had to be canceled because of the pandemic. We scheduled it for last week. We had to move that because we had key people that were out because of COVID. So we fully understand COVID, and we're very much willing to take that into consideration. But I did note on your complaint list that there was no references made to people who were given credits. Am I correct on that? See, here's one. Do you know how many of these customers were given credits? The ones on this complaint list that you provided?
Yeah, sir, actually, if I could, I'd like to turn it over to Erin again, because I do believe that she has information about a great number of the customers who were on the original record of complaint. So I'd like to ask her to address that. Before I go, though, turn it over to her. As to the other matters you raised, so this hearing is the first in which it was conveyed by the county the concerns about the defect in the form of the letter of credit and the insurance. So as far as the letter of credit goes with regard to your concerns, that's something I'm happy tomorrow to address with the bank and see if we can resolve that for you. Similarly, with the insurance, we can look into that. However, we can also provide you the financial information about Altice, and so that you can have a greater level of confidence in self-insurance that's in place, and that Altice is capable of covering a claim at least in an amount of $1 million. And that self-insurance of this type is not an uncommon practice, but I do understand your concern, and I will look into that.
Sir, let me say this.
Sure.
Two ways you can fix this on the insurance situation and the letter of credit. You can comply with the ordinance, or you're going to be found in violation of the ordinance if my motion is accepted. I think it's clear that your service technicians are routinely late and do not notify people based on what we've heard. And we are concerned that there's no letter of credit in place, and that with $1 million self-insured retention, I mean, I'm not asking to see your financials. I'm asking to see an insurance policy that complies with the ordinance. And if your company has those kind of financial resources that you represent to us, shouldn't be a problem. I mean, that shouldn't be an issue. The other question I have is, has your company done any kind of performance testing on any areas of Pike County in the last 2 years?
I'd have to get back to you on that.
Well, you're the general counsel. Who would be able to answer that for me?
Well, with regards to whether or not a specific technical review has been done, that, generally not my area, but I'm happy to find out right away and turn around and answer to you right away.
So Mr. Hogue, you obviously concede by the fact that you're here on this hearing via Zoom, that both you and Ms. Jones and your company received adequate and timely notice under the ordinance. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Stipulate, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you knew that there would be technical issues discussed with you here today. Is that correct?
I did, but I did not know there would be a specific question about whether a specific type of technical review had been conducted.
You were aware that there were technical complaints by customers of Suddenlink in Pike County, Kentucky, did you not?
I was aware of the specific lists, sir, of the items in the record of complaint that was forwarded to us.
And you received the letter that I sent you back in September, is that correct?
There was a delay because of the mail, but it may have been around October 1st.
Well, you received the letter from my office regarding these issues, did you not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you knew that in my letter of September 10th that we raised issues regarding technical problems that people in Pike County were having, did you not?
Yes, that is correct.
And you knew the purpose of this hearing tonight was to determine whether your company's in violation of our ordinance, did you not?
Yes, sir.
You have no one here that can answer technical questions for myself, the county attorney, or other members of the Pike County Fiscal Court, did you?
I do have.
Hold on,
Yeah.
We are prepared to respond to what was in the complaint in terms of the grounds of the violations. We are prepared to address that. We came prepared to address all of that. And Ms. Jones can speak to the specific cases that were raised as being the grounds for the violations.
Can Ms. Jones answer technical questions?
Yes. So it depends on what you were asking in general. I don't know if we have a thorough review from start to finish, but we do have our maintenance and metrics in place that we have been working on diligently. We've had a large crew in the area since prior to Christmas, nonstop, and have added additional support for our outside plant maintenance to address some of those concerns that aren't at the localized level, but more on the node and out on the line. And through a lot of the maintenance portion of it, they've done a thorough review of node health for all of the nodes in the county. And we can get information from that says whether it's underperforming or up to par. So based upon the results that they received, they had, say, maybe a handful of them that needed to be addressed first and were prioritized to have the work performed. And as we go through there, they let it go for a few days, and then we have someone go back through to make sure that the signal is holding, which that's where the weather comes in, is the radio frequency.
My question is real simple.
Mm-hmm.
Has any performance testing been done on areas of Pike County served by Suddenlink in the last 2 years?
I guess it depends, and I'm not trying to be smart, if this would be considered performance testing by doing our routine background checks on the nodes and going through as a sweep from, node to node, from head end out, if you would consider that performance. But we're doing regular maintenance checks for how all of the nodes are performing, and then going through each line. We've replaced several amplifiers. So in that system, I would say, yes, that would be performance related because they're trying to address the system issues
Let
as
me
a
ask you.
whole.
Okay, so obviously there's been no detailed performance testing. Is that correct?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, Rob, I don't know what we would exactly consider performance testing or if it's our normal reviews.
Well,
and
testing
going
to
through.
see how your system's performing and why all these folks in Pike County are having so many problems with your cable service. Have you done
Well,
any
that's what
testing
we
to
are
try to
doing.
figure that out?
That's what we are doing right now and have consistently been doing with monitoring all of our systems and all of the nodes and going through to identify the issue.
So my staff has been working with you for a couple years now on these issues, and you're just now doing testing?
No, we are always doing routine monitoring. It's 24-hour monitoring of the nodes. But if it's a localized issue, sometimes it takes at least 14 or 15% of customers to contact us before we're made aware of a larger issue. So we can see down to the node level, but after that, we rely on customers to inform us of the issue. But when we see an issue in the node, we've been going from the node out, and we are replacing equipment as we go, and have sent technicians out to every home that we have gotten a complaint from to try to address the issues at the localized level and at the larger scale.
Has your company billed Pike County residents who receive Suddenlink cable for customer service visits when a customer service technician did not come to their home?
No, that is not part of our standards. They should not be billed if a service or technician does not show up.
That's not my question. My question was very simple. Has your company ever billed a Pike County resident for a customer service visit by a technician when the technician did not come to the customer's home? Has that been done?
It may have been done. I would need a specific occurrence. And if it was inadvertent, we remove them.
Okay, so I'm making a formal request. I'm gonna back up. I'm making a formal request under section 21 of the ordinance, which requires performance testing. I'm requesting that within 30 days that performance testing under section 22B of the ordinance be provided to the fiscal court. Now, in addition, how many customer service technicians are assigned to work on problems that come up for Pike County residents? How many customer service technicians are assigned to handle complaints by our folks here who have your service?
You're talking about the field technicians or customer service representatives?
Technicians.
I do not have that number in front of me because I said they've shifted a large group of people there recently, but I can follow up with you on what our current base is.
I need to know that tonight. I mean, you knew we were going to take action under this ordinance tonight. I want to know how many people are working on these problems that are coming up here. Is it a non-zero number, or are there no customer service technicians assigned to Pike County?
We have a lot of them working in Pike County that have been since before Christmas. I just don't have a
What
flat
about
number.
before Christmas? What about before Christmas? What about in the last 2 years, say from January 1st, 2018 until Christmas of 2020? How many customer service technicians were assigned to Pike County?
It probably just depends on the time, but I'll have to take a look.
You can't answer that as we sit here tonight.
It would change probably year to year and what projects we have going on there. So when we went through and replaced a lot of equipment, we obviously had more of a quota. It's all based on quota and what we expect to work.
How many customers do you have in Pike County? Not in the city, but in the
right.
county franchise area.
Well, there's 2 separate franchises. I believe it is probably close to 3,000 combined.
3,000. When you say combined, you're talking about the city and the county?
No, the county has 2 separate franchise agreements for 2 separate systems.
3,000 total customers?
It's approximation.
Okay. So you've got approximately 3,000 customers, but you don't know how many technicians are assigned to the county.
That's just numbers that change day to day, so I don't have in front of me, but I will get them for you.
Are there any customer service technicians or service technicians, let me say, who are assigned specifically to Pike County?
Yes, that are there every day.
It's not my question. Because someone's here, you say every day, are there people who are assigned specifically to Pike County, Kentucky's customers?
Yes, it may be a part of their region, but they could still also just be assigned to there.
So you don't know how many, as we sit here tonight, how many service technicians there are?
And like I said, it depends, because we have outside plant maintenance workers there. We have field technicians.
Outside plant. What is an outside plant? What is an outside plant? You keep referring to
outside plant maintenance are the people that are assigned to maintain the infrastructure on the network, versus a field technician is the one going to do an install at your home.
Say that one more time, please.
Outside plant maintenance would be our engineers that are in charge of making sure that our plant is operating optimally as it should be at the larger level from the node and amplifiers and such, where a field technician would be someone that would go to do a home install.
Right. Ma'am, there's another issue that we have here. So you're telling me, do you know if your company is paying occupational tax for any of the service technicians or engineers who are working in Pike County?
I know we looked into that issue previously. I was trying to find my notes. And I
You want me to answer that?
I can't answer that because I know I put someone in your office in touch with our tax office.
Okay, my question is this. You have employees working in Pike County, is that correct?
Yes, currently at the moment.
You said at the moment you do have, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Are they actually employees of your company, or are they independent contractors?
It is likely a mixture of both.
Okay. And have you reported that to our occupational tax office? I mean, if we knew how many employees you had, if you were registered, we could tell exactly how many employees you had here in Pike County.
I would have to check with our tax department.
And you're also aware, are you not, that under the ordinance, you have to comply with all applicable state, local, and federal laws? Is that correct?
Correct.
So if you're not paying occupational tax and have not registered, you would also concede that that would also be a violation of the franchise agreement, would you not?
Yes, but like I said, we've looked into that with our tax partners before.
Well, I mean, you know, this has been the law here for 4 or 5 years before I came in office. And your company's been doing business here for how long now? Ma'am, Ms. Jones, how long has your company been doing business here under the franchise agreement?
Under this franchise, it would just, I'd have to look to see if it was a Sequel Seabridge when the original was established versus Suddenly.
Okay. You acknowledge, and if Mr. Koch would like to jump in here, I'll be more than happy to let him do so. But it would seem to me that more than the last 45 years, if you've been doing business here for more than the last 4 or 5 years, that there would have been an obligation for your company to register with our occupational tax office. And that is required by law under penalty of both fines and interest for failure to pay. Also, for failing to file a return that has other consequences. And so now that we obviously have an admission here that your company is not in compliance with that, that raises another issue. So we don't know how many full-time employees you have working here to service 3,000 customers. Let's talk about your customer service. Where are your customer service calls fielded?
We have multiple locations, both in-house and through our outside business partners.
Where are those located?
Might need Rob to help me with some of those.
What's
Yeah,
that?
I don't have the current list on that. I mean, we can get that for you.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of stuff that you've not provided that you can't provide us answers to.
Well, again, we came prepared to respond to the information in the violation. So I apologize if we didn't cast a net wider than that, and to respond to the specifically to the terms of the franchise. But again, we're happy to respond to these as quickly as possible.
Well, we're gonna address some of those here momentarily. Under the agreement, under the ordinance, I should say, the ordinance requires that a customer be given a credit if cable services offer more than 12 hours. Is there any type of policy in place to make sure that customers whose service is out for more than 12 hours is given a pro rata credit or refund?
So customarily, a refund is provided upon request by the customer.
Okay.
I know that there are times that a customer service rep does have the discretion to provide a credit when appropriate, and that may be the case. I did not hear any of that tonight, so I understand that's a concern. But generally, credit is provided when a customer requests it.
That's not what the ordinance says. The ordinance says that if it's off, you have to give it to them. They shouldn't have to answer or ask for a credit or refund. That's not what the ordinance says. But you're telling me, Mr. Hoke, that your policy is that the customer has to ask for it. Is that correct?
I'm unaware of testimony of a television outage for more than 12 hours here in which credit was not provided.
All right, let's go back to Ms. Milam. Ms. Milam, you still there with us? Peggy, we're going to send you a request. Peggy, you there?
Yes.
Okay, have there been periods of time where your service has been out for more than 12 hours?
Yes.
And you've reported You've reported that to Suddenlink?
Yes, when I would call in and tell them that it was out, they say we're aware of the problem.
So they would tell you, did they ever offer you a refund or a credit?
No,
And you've had service interruptions more than 12 hours on various occasions since September of 2019?
yes.
All right. How many occasions have you had service interruptions for more than 12 hours?
Well, there was one time that it stayed off like 2 days, 2 nights. And when we would call in about it, they'd say it was due to the weather and that they would get someone out and try to get it fixed as soon as possible.
Did they offer you a credit or refund?
No. When
Go ahead.
When I asked about a credit, they told me that they didn't give credits for service outages in the area, that it had to be completely the whole line down.
Okay. And your service has been out how long today?
It's been off and on all day long, and it came back on at 5 o'clock.
Okay. All right. I think that's all I have. Thank you. I appreciate you staying on the Zoom meeting. So under the ordinance, the credit is due if it is detected by Suddenlink or reported by the customer. And it does not appear, based on what Mr. Hoke says, that is a policy that has been implemented. It does raise a consumer protection issue relative to the performance under the ordinance. So we have identified numerous issues here. And, we asked for a public meeting once before. Ms. Jones was kind enough to come down. There were quite a few people here personally at that meeting. And this is not the first time that we've tried to work with Suddenlink. We've detailed at least 3 employees of the fiscal court to work with Suddenlink on this issue. We had a public meeting. Ms. Jones was here. I very clearly, plainly explained the problems that were going on. She was nice enough to meet with our folks, but it does not seem that there's been any substantial change. If we have people like Ms. Milam still calling in. Tonight, I can't get basic answers on how many employees are here working on these issues. Maybe you can answer this question, Ms. Jones. How much money has been spent on the Suddenlink infrastructure in Pike County in the last 2 years? You know how much has been spent in Pike County?
I don't usually get a number for maintenance and upgrades. And sorry if you're just asking a question I don't have in front of me right at the moment, but I can find it.
There's a lot of questions we can't answer here at this hearing.
Well, I just have so many materials in front of me that I prepared as well for this, and I'd have to look through other files. But I believe it would probably be closer to $1 million or more.
How much?
It would probably be closer to $2 million or more, I would expect.
Well, where are you getting that number from? Is that just a guess?
Just from the number of nodes and amplifiers that were replaced and the work and time that they have put into that system.
Well, you would recognize, obviously, that is your responsibility to put that work in investment in the infrastructure to have the privilege of serving 3,000 people. You would agree with that, would you not?
Correct.
And that is just a guess that you just gave us. That's not the actual number, is it?
I will try to get you an actual number, but if over 2 years' time, that's not something that's provided just based on its equipment and time, but we can get an estimate.
So
perhaps it would be helpful if we could give you a list of some of the improvements that have been made. And also if Ms. Jones could address the list of customer complaints, which was read by your colleagues earlier. to give you some of idea of how we've responded to your concerns.
Well, first of all, that doesn't really answer my question about how much money was spent on the infrastructure. It doesn't explain why you're not registered for occupational taxes and haven't been for the last 5 years, your company or the predecessor in interest. It doesn't explain why you can't tell me how many technicians are assigned to Pike County. It can't explain why Miss Milam has continued to have interruptions, as are a lot of the folks that were documented. I suspect that we don't have a lot of people here tonight because of the pandemic. And we had quite a few more, and the city had quite a few at their meeting, their public hearing. But as you know, for public safety purposes, a lot of people are, public health reasons, are concerned about coming out in public. And that's why we made this available by Zoom. And, but I am serious questions about your conduct, the omissions, and the, in terms of providing the service. The ordinance requires that a credit be given, services out, if it's either detected by your company or reported by the customer. The only duty the customer.
I respectfully disagree, though, on that point. I had the chance to look at the provision in the franchise, and it does state that a pro rata adjustment of fixed monthly charges will be allowed upon the request of the subscriber. So I don't know if we're looking at different documents, but my understanding is the ordinance requires that the customer request the credit.
We may be looking at a different document. I can't answer that for you, but the document that I have, hold on a second.
I'm looking at section 25 of the ordinance. C4.
We will discuss that issue. I'm not sure what, we will reserve that issue. I think that there's enough here to raise, to constitute a violation of the county's ordinance as we've discussed this. I'm going to move that we go into recess for a few minutes. We've been here now for nearly 2 hours. This time I'm going to move that we go into recess for a break for about 10 or 15 minutes, and we will return upon call of the chair. The court back to order. I do have a lady that would like to call in, and I had a message from Miss Sandy Runyon, and see if we can hear her there.
Sandy.
Okay, Sandy, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, Judge.
Okay. I have a lady that is a very well-known individual here in this county. It's Miss Sandy Runyon, who is the former director. Reggie, hang on one second, Sandy. All right. We are back on. We want to make sure everyone, Ms. Jones, Mr. Hogue, can you hear us okay? All right. We have a lady that is very well known here in Pike County that has sent a message that to us because of the she is a Suddenlink customer and has cable with Suddenlink, and she couldn't participate with Zoom because her internet service. It's Miss Sandy Runyon, who was the former director of the Big Sandy Area Development District and was a member of Congressman Hal Rogers' staff, former Pike Circuit Court clerk, and is a dear friend of mine, a lady I have tremendous respect for, even though we're in different political parties. Sandy, can you hear me okay? Yes, I can. All right, Sandy, you have the floor, and you're not the only person that has sent messages that they cannot get through because of the internet service through Suddenlink. Would you begin by stating your full name and where you live?
Sandy Runyon, 1227 Big Branch Road, Pikeville, 41501.
Hang on one second. Okay. So basically, what we have is we have representatives from Suddenlink on here, Sandy, and we are in the process of a public hearing to determine whether Suddenlink has violated the provisions of Pike County's cable franchise ordinance. You are a cable and internet customer of Suddenlink, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, Sandy, if you would, we can't regulate internet service here, but can you tell us the problems that you're having or you've had with Suddenlink?
I have been a Suddenlink customer since they've been in business, basically. And we have never had really good service, but for the past several years, our service has been erratic at best. And we live in a rather narrow hollow in Pike County. So we have been told that it's difficult to use satellite service here, or I would have left Suddenlink already. Also, again, I understand that you can't regulate the internet service on this, but we have as much megabit as we can get through the internet service, and it's terrible. But the cable service is out at least one day a week. It's either out or it's not watchable as a cable service. And I am a very frequent caller to Suddenlink. I will say that I don't have any complaints about the way I have been treated on the phone, but it doesn't do any good. So I know it's not the responsibility of those people who are answering the telephone, and sometimes I get very upset at myself because I'm so angry. But I don't care to pay for service so long as I get the service I pay for, and so long as I see some improvement when there are issues. I never complain when it's weather related, and I understand how that type of outage occurs. But I think Suddenlink has a responsibility to the customers that they serve, whether it be Pike County or somewhere else, to provide the service that we pay for.
Sandy, have you had trouble with your customer service when you called in?
Other than the fact that it takes so long to get a person, most often you don't get a person. You get a recording that tells you they're aware of an issue, and they'll let you know when it's repaired. But if I do get a customer service representative, I'm usually on hold for 25 or 30 minutes and sometimes longer. And that's not acceptable.
How long have you, what kind of length of periods of service interruption have you had?
Last week, my service was out for at least 24 hours, if not longer. I can't remember exactly. But I called about the service, and I was told that they would send a technician to my home the next day, and they did. He showed up on time. He came in, he did what he was supposed to do, but discovered that he was not actually a service technician. He was basically doing an assessment to see if the problem was inside. He did that. He was very nice. I had no complaints about him, but he couldn't do anything to help us. So, my assessment of that was that because Suddenlink has had so many people complaining that nobody shows up, they've added another layer to that customer service. And that doesn't do us any good because although he was very nice, he could not help us.
Basically, as I understand it, you called extended wait times, you have frequent outages, even when it's non-weather related. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And when you called, they did send a technician out, but the technician was not capable of making a repair, only finding out what was wrong.
He was not, and he told us that when he came in. So he told us what he could and could not do.
Sandy, what do you, no, this is a personal question. What do you pay a month for your cable and internet service?
I pay $232.29.
Okay. Sandy, is there anything else that you would like to add?
I would like to add that, again, Suddenlink sold us a service, and we pay for that service. They constantly advertise that service being for sale, and they should provide it if they're in the position of telling us they can.
Okay. The customer service representative that came to your home, was he wearing a mask?
Yes, he was wearing a mask.
All right. Judge, I have a question from Commissioner Jason Tackett. I don't know if you can hear Jason, but I may have to relay the question.
Was they in a Suddenlink truck?
Sandy, the question was the person that came to your home in a Suddenlink truck, or was it in a different vehicle?
I did not see the sign on his truck. He was in a small white service truck, but I gathered that he might have been a contractor. I don't know that for sure.
Okay. And that's an issue that we're going to bring Mr. Coleman back up with here momentarily.
Okay.
Sandy, thank you very much for calling in. I think you have a special relationship with our congressman, and given the fact that we can't at this level regulate internet service, but it is a problem, and I would recommend that you reach out to your very special friend, Congressman Hal Rogers, to discuss having him look into this issue because it is a major issue.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Is anyone else that on the call that would like to participate? We have someone else that's on here, and we're going to click on that. I don't see a name. Ma'am, what is it? Whoever's got the VJB, we're going to recognize you at this time. Ma'am, can you hear me? Ma'am, can you hear me? I don't think she may. Okay. We have a lady that's checked on. Let's see if we can. Okay. Let me try this.
Yes. Hello?
Of higher tech stuff than we've normally done here at the fiscal court. Would you please state your name?
My name is Valerie Bartlett.
Well, it's Valerie. We're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. Can you tell me your name again?
Valerie Bartlett.
Valerie. And Miss Bartlett, where do you live? Ma'am, I can't hear you.
Valerie Bartlett.
Valerie, you have a bad connection.
Bartlett.
Can you hear me?
Hear me?
I think your internet speed.
Ash Camp on it.
Yeah, we're having trouble with the buffering. Valerie, if you want to call, would you like to call in? If you want to call in, you want me to give you a number to call in? If you can call the judge's office right now at 432.
Can't hear me.
6247, give us just a couple minutes and we'll put you through here, okay? And I'll send my secretary in there to await your phone call.
It's not that.
432-6247, if you want to try that.
627. The phone.
Let's go ahead and mute her. All right, and all right, so let's click, see if anybody else is checked in. Okay. All right. You want to ask, we had someone else, if there's anyone else that's checked onto the call that would like to speak, they can go ahead and let us know. I do have a couple questions for Ms. Jones. Ms. Jones, Mr. Hoke, either one of you that would like to, we're going to unmute you here. Do have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Mr. Coleman, could you come up over to the podium real quick? First and foremost, can you tell me what your annual revenues are from servicing the customers under the franchise agreements that we spoke about here tonight?
We don't know offhand and wouldn't disclose it publicly. We could, I mean, normally if a community collects a franchise fee, the officials have access to that number because it shows the basis of the calculation. We can get that to you, but it's because it's considered competitively sensitive information. We normally don't discuss it in a public forum like this.
Well, under the franchise agreement, this is a public agreement that you're operating under. And under the agreement, you're required to provide information to us.
Yes,
and
but we're not.
There's nothing in this agreement that says you don't have to give us that information, and I'm asking for that information.
Well, there's nothing under the agreement that requires us to provide competitively sensitive information. Probably the laws of the Commonwealth would prescribe how that's handled, but that's something we can arrange to provide to you on a confidential basis. But that's nothing that the kind of information that companies share specific.
It doesn't take a stretch when you've got people saying they're paying 120 some or 160 some, one lady paying 230 some a month. It doesn't take a stretch of the imagination to multiply what that would be. An average of that would be for $3,000. That's, and we're going to look back at the agreement. We're going to ask for that information. Also, we're going to ask for the performance testing information. We're going to ask for, in addition, we're going to ask for the performance evaluation, to the performance evaluation data. You have an issue also. Does your company maintain an office in Pike County, Kentucky?
In Pikeville, yes.
Okay, where is that office?
That is our retail store that handles billing. 300 North Mayo Trail, Pikeville, Kentucky.
Is that office still open?
The office reopened after being closed for a period of time during COVID, but it has reopened for normal office hours.
When did it reopen?
I think I sent an email out when that store reopened. But it was within the last couple of months. I can get the exact date for you here in 1 second.
When did that office close?
We had to close all of our retail locations probably in March across the country until we could assess the various regulations in each state and ensure that we had proper safety protocols in place to protect our employees and customers.
Okay. I think we do have some information here from Mr. Coleman. Mr. Coleman, we've asked him to verify your standing with regard to it
was December 7th. I apologize.
Mr. Coleman's going to update us with regard to the tax status for your company. Mr. Coleman, what were you able to verify?
That they are up to date, up to the third quarter of 2020.
But that was only recently.
That was only recently, of October of 2020.
And that's for the occupational for their employees.
Correct.
What about their net profit?
Net
tax?
profits is only one is 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19.
So we're 4 years delinquent on their net profit
Correct.
tax returns.
But that address that she spoke of, if that's the only address they have in Pike County, that might accidentally be in the city limits.
That might be, but the net profit tax would be due and payable on their net profits generated in Pike County.
Correct.
So they are not up to date on their net profit.
Correct.
And they have not disclosed any independent contractor information to the occupational tax office. Is that correct? And they were substantially delinquent for a period of time on the occupational tax for their employees?
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Jones, did your company notify the county regarding the closure of its office?
I don't believe we did when it was a temporary closure. I believe we only have a regulatory notification for permanent closures. So no, we did not notify every store because it was basically all of them at one time. I do know I kept in touch with a lot of municipalities and authorities when we had an idea of when they would reopen. But no, we did not have to do that during that temporary time frame.
Did you notify your customers? When the store was shut down?
I believe all that information was updated online on our website. It showed which stores were opened and which stores were closed and their revised office hours. And I know pulling up Google for a period of time, it would show, the stores closed.
What about people who don't have internet service or have trouble with your internet? Did you send any kind of written notification out to them that the stores would be closed?
I do not believe that would be a requirement that we would have to do, so no.
Okay, a lot of businesses, a lot of people would consider what your company does to be an essential service, considering people rely on internet for phone calls and other things, television for particularly during the middle of a pandemic. Did you seek permission or notify or seek permission under the ordinance to close the store? I mean, you could have a storefront open. A lot of businesses have done that where you socially distance from the public or have drive-through windows where people can pay bills and so forth, or speak to a live person.
We were still considered essential, and the employees, aside from some of the retail store, which were the customer-facing stores that were closed, we're still considered essential, still working. So our technicians never stopped working out in the field, and everyone that could shift to working remotely did. And we did have some disruption with our customer service during a time period as they figured out how to shift them from call centers with a lot of people to working remotely. And we had to adjust some various ones that had to close and get those shifted around. But for the customer-facing retail locations, those are primarily for billing questions and bill payments. And all of that information can be done by phone or through a computer or an app. And we've got some other options as well to engage with a customer service representative in regards to those situations that they could very well do in person at the store, could be done in a variety of other ways. But our technical operations side, they continue to work throughout the duration.
Okay, again, you're acknowledged under section 25 of our ordinance, you are required to keep a business location open, are you not?
Which might be a little different during this time, which, you know, COVID, it was a regulation that we had to get these specific provisions in place before anyone could reopen. Everyone was shut down for a given period of time until we
Not everyone was shut down because you said your technicians were still in the field. And you
That
acknowledge
was not a central office facility that would be customer facing.
your company did not seek a waiver of the provision under section 25 for consumer service standards before closing the office, did you?
But I don't believe we were required to. Again, a lot of these requirements are under normal operating conditions. That was not the case. And we did not close the office permanently. It was temporary closure. It was a closure for an realistic, understandable public health reason. So I don't believe that our position would be that the franchise does not require us to maintain an office under those conditions or to notify of a temporary closure.
Well, Mr. Hoke, I'm glad our hospitals don't take the same approach to patient care that your company has taken. Your company, a lot of people depend on your service as a matter of life or death, and particularly the important public safety notice or service that comes from people being able to access the news, being able to access the services your company sells. Your company doesn't give this away. And your company, and it's not your place nor your company to say that you're going to violate a law of Pike County, Kentucky that has been in place that your company knew it's required to comply with. Just like it's not your place to say that you're not going to comply with their net profit tax and not timely pay the occupational tax on your employees. That's a huge, huge issue. And, your company was substantially delinquent, and we're going to continue to pursue that. You're unobligated under the ordinance to comply with the law and to submit to air authority. And, you have to provide information to us, and that's not been done. So we have one other lady, I believe, that would like to call in, Miss Valerie Bartley, who tried to come in. Miss Bartley, we're going to go to you here momentarily, and then I'm going to ask Mr. Hoke and Miss Jones for their final comments, and we're going to move on because we have other business to do here. Valerie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm sorry that we couldn't get you on the Zoom. We can still see you, but you're calling in, so you're on a speaker phone. Hopefully everyone can hear you. If they can't, they can let us know. Please tell us your full name.
My name is Valerie Bartley.
Okay, and where do you live, Valerie?
I live on Jackson Branch. It's on Elkhorn Creek or Ash Cape.
Hang on one second, Valerie. Valerie, go ahead. I was on Jackson's Branch the other day, so I know exactly where you live.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
We can. So tell us what problems you've had. Are you a Suddenlink customer?
Yes, I am a Suddenlink customer.
Okay, and what kind of problems are you having? Valerie, can you?
I have had problems with Suddenlink I've lost him.
Valerie, go ahead.
I think I lost the Zoom.
You did, but that's okay. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, I've had problems with Sunlink for over a year now. I mean, on and off, I've had problems with them since
Go ahead. Val, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, what
I'm here.
what kind of problems are you having with Suddenlink?
It used to just be internet, and my internet would go out every day for hours, sometimes the entire day.
Okay, Valerie.
Then it started that it was my TV as well.
So you're having trouble with your cable television also?
Yes.
Okay.
That started about, it started a few months ago, actually. The TV, the cable. First of all, it was just the internet, and I as upsetting as that was, I still had TV, and then it got to where it was both, and it would go out and it would stay out all day and all night.
Did you call Suddenlink customer service?
I've called Sunlink so many times, I can't tell you how many times. I would have, if I had my phone records in front of me, I could probably count. Not just calling them, but texting the text site that they have, and Sunlink Communications on Facebook, and emails. I've got probably 100 emails between myself and Sunlink.
Did you have any long waits getting a hold of someone on customer service?
No. The only way you can get a hold of them is to call the number, and then you will go through several people, or you know, like recordings, and it'll ask you why you're calling, what's your, you know, are you calling about internet or cable, or, and it just goes on, and then you finally get through to somebody, and it's always the same thing: reset your router. And
have you had to wait on the phone for a customer service representative for any lengthy period of time?
I would say, you know, it's no more than the average wait time. I've not waited like for an hour or two like that, but I've been on the phone with them for probably a half an hour or longer, trying to resolve the problem. Then they will, after a couple of times, they'll say, you know, this is going to require a tech come out. I've had 4 or 5 of them here just in the last, since October the 29th. I would say I've had 5 visits at least, and I've had several that didn't bother to show up.
Have you had technicians scheduled to come out and them not come when they were supposed to?
Yes, a couple of different times.
Did they
But
call?
the one guy called me, and he said he had been to my house once, like a couple of weeks earlier, and he actually took the time to call me and tell me he wasn't going to bother to come because he knew that the problem that was going on was not anything that he fixed, and that he had already escalated it once, and they sent it right back down to him. And he said, I'm not going to bother to come up there because there's nothing that I can do. You know, he told me I can't climb up on the pole and do any work on the amps or anything like that. So he didn't, you know, he didn't come because he knew there was no reason for him to.
So he told you that he couldn't come up even and fix it, even if he came back up. Is that correct?
The only thing he could do would be to come into the house and check the speeds on the router, and I can do that myself, you know, from my computer.
So the other question.
And the last guy, the last one that came out came twice in the same night. He came once, he checked the speeds were okay. He left. About an hour later, he came back, and he said his boss called and told him to come back and check the speed on the outside of the house because they were convinced it was my router, and they wanted to prove that it was the router, and it wasn't. It's in the lines because every one of my neighbors, I live in a little small, I live what you might call almost in the head of the holler, And there's probably 11 people up in this little section, and I can get in touch with every one of them, and they'll tell me that theirs was out all night too. So I knew it wasn't my router.
One of the issue that you mentioned that you've had numerous technicians come out and they've not been able to fix the problem. Is that correct?
They will come out and they will patch it, like temporarily. They'll get the router working and it'll do okay, but that night it'll go right back out.
You're talking about your cable service?
Cable and internet. Okay. Like I said, it was just my internet. My internet would go out and it'd be out all night, and then the guy came and worked on it once, and then after that, it was the cable and the internet both. So they'll both go off and they'll be off.
So
all night.
The other issue, when they schedule people to come out, they cancel at times. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's probably been 2 or 3 no-shows. The rest of them do show up, but they do the same thing when they come. They come inside and they check the router, and then they leave.
When you called in, did they ever offer you a credit, or did you ever ask for one?
I asked for a credit for December. I actually asked for a credit, and I probably have my emails in, because I save everything. I save all correspondence with them. And I asked for a credit for November because I had a total 13 days with no TV and no internet. And they gave me a $4 credit for November. And then in December, they did give me a credit of $65 because I probably had 15 or 20 days in November where I would lose internet and TV all night. So they did give me a credit, but I did have to ask for it.
And you said they gave you a $4 credit in what month? December?
November, they gave me a $4 credit.
And $65.
They gave me basically 1 day for internet.
And $65 in December, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, now the other...
Because I told them, I sent them an email and I told them, I said, you'll just have to disconnect me by default because I will not pay for December like I did in November. I went on ahead and paid my bill in November. And I told them I won't do it for December. Just go on ahead and disconnect me. Well, that was when they offered me the credit.
How much money do you pay a month for TV and internet?
Well, right now I'm actually on a reduced rate because of the trouble that I had last year. I was having so much trouble last year that, I mean, it was worse last year than it has been this year. And after calls and calls and calls, I actually contacted Congressman Rogers, and his office did help me. And I was able to get a reduced rate for 1 year, and that will reset in March. I will go back to paying what I originally was paying, which was $185, but I'm sure it'll be higher now because what everybody's been telling me is that they've raised the bills. I don't know.
Well, Valerie, we appreciate the information, and we're going to move on with this, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us, okay?
Well, I'll just say one final thing, and I have spoken to you before. I don't know if you remember, but if Suddenlink is not going to honor their service agreement, service being fixing the lines, fixing the amps, coming to the proper location when it's out. If they're not willing to do that, then why don't they release us and let us find another provider that will?
Well,
because I worked at a place that had AT&T internet and TV, and they never had problems like this.
Well, that's something.
And I would love it if we could get that, or anything else.
Well, this court believes that competition would be a good thing for this situation.
Yeah.
So listen, Valerie, we appreciate you. Anything else we can do, let us know, okay? Have a good evening.
All right.
And
I appreciate you for talking to me.
No problem.
For what you're doing to try to help everybody.
Well, this court's committed to making sure that our folks are taken care of, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Good night. All right. All right, so at this time, before we hear final remarks from anyone on behalf of Suddenlink, Commissioner Tackett, do you have any questions or comments?
Judge, I do. Most of these people in this paper right here, I know them personally. Rode up around them, went to school with their kids or their grandkids, or when I look at these numbers here, and we don't know what's right or wrong because they don't give us no numbers. But when you're charging people this kind of money in this county or in the district that I represent, and you're giving them a poor piss service, it's time we stand up and do something on this. That's pretty much all I got to say, Judge.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Ronnie Robertson.
I just want to say that Suddenlink is taking a lot of money from the citizens of Pike County, and we're not getting the service that they deserve. I've been up Dry Fork and I've seen the TV lines in the creek, just running in the creek. If they can't step up and give these people service, what they deserve, and we're responsible, this court is responsible to make these people get what they deserve, and we're speaking for them, then we need to move on down the road and find another provider. People of Pike County deserves better.
Well, Commissioner, this is a non-exclusive franchise. Historically, the cable companies have tried to limit their service to their area, but it would seem to me that competition might be the way to fix this. Commissioner Booth, would you like to say anything?
Judge, I think that Suddenlink sounds to me like a lot, and I talked to a gentleman today, matter of fact, that he said Suddenlink come out to his house 3 or 4 days ago and told him his equipment was outdated, and he said he hadn't had that equipment that long. So it sounds to me like Suddenlink is just taking the people of Pike County's money and putting it somewhere else and giving us their junk. So, I think that we need to just stand up for the people of the county and move along with this. And if that's competition is what Suddenlink needs.
I agree. All right. Anything else, gentlemen?
No, sir.
All right. At this time, Ms. Jones, Mr. Hoke, do you have any final comments? Okay, Mr. Hoke has signed off. I guess he had more important things to do tonight. So, Ms. Jones, do you have anything else you would like to say now that your counsel has signed off the meeting? She's wanting to speak, Reggie. Hang on one second. We'll unmute you there. Go ahead, man.
Thank you. And I'm sure.
Ms. Jones, I don't think it's very funny that, this is an important thing. It's important enough to all these people. You might want to look at the Facebook feed on this and look at the comments. You were here before, and I don't think this is funny. I don't think when you've got people like Sandy Runyon and Valerie Bartley calling in, that this is funny. When Peggy Milam, she can sit up here on this meeting tonight and take her time. Her time is just as valuable as Mr. Hoke's time. And you think this is funny? I don't see anything in this.
Funny. I'm sorry. I was trying to.
They're laughing, and I take great offense to that. Just like when you were here last time, I was very courteous to you. Do you think any of the members of this court want to have to take time to try to police what your company's doing? And I'm greatly offended that Mr. Hoke was too important or too busy, that he can't sit here and listen to these comments. And I am greatly offended that you would think it's funny enough to sit here and laugh when there's people posting on Facebook that they're trying to get on the Zoom meeting, but because of your company's internet service, they can't.
And
so you can final remarks.
Yes, and I apologize for that. It's the circumstances with the Zoom call. But I would like to go on record with the complaints that were reviewed previously. I know you read through the list of 16 complaints that we had identified and that were sent to us, where we said that a portion of them did provide credit. If we could go through those as you went through the list, with the resolution that was provided to the county, where each of those had been resolved, what work we completed was included on that list, and whether they received a credit or not. With more than a handful of those that did receive a credit back to their bill for the time of their outage. And typically that is verified whether it's been out for that extended period, which we can see on the network. If we can go through that list with you. And also I do have a list of information and improvements that we have been making in the last several months or so on top of previous work that we have been doing. But we were able to identify approximately 314 breaks, and this does include Pikeville, which I can remove out for passing along to you later. And that's where I said we identified the 5 nodes, 3 of those being strictly Pike County, that we were able to go out, repair, replace the equipment that needed replaced. And once we did repair those nodes, we were able to go back through, verify that the system was break free, which adjusting the amplifiers sometimes takes place after going through the nodes. And I apologize for the background sound on my computer. But we do gather the number of actives that we replaced over the past couple of months. 168 repairs were done in December for lines that had either leaks or breaks in them. And I did get an update while we were on here in regard to Ms. Milam, because I know I've seen emails daily on updates, and there was work being completed in that node over the last 2 days, which would account for the interruption of service. Oftentimes when we're going in to make some repairs, there are possibilities of there being outages, but that is what is occurring right now. And we have equipment that will be replaced on it tomorrow. We have another that we received. There is a commercial power outage as well that made contact with Ms. Milam Friday. So we are always actively working on these. I take them very seriously because of the sheer volume that come in, and I work closely with your staff members every day.
Can you explain to me why there were 168 breaks and leaks in December?
Those were the breaks that were completed in December. So this is ongoing maintenance as we go through the line. As I said, the difference between our field service operation or the field operations where they're going to the home and doing the install, we have these dedicated people going out making repairs on the node in the system. So when they're going through, say, block by block, if they identify a line that's gone bad, or if they check with their equipment that the signal isn't what it should be, then they'll replace that. So those are the ones they've fixed just in December. We have 136 repairs that are still pending, and we do have that added outside plant support on the ground that is still working to complete the rest of those repairs. And this is just what we have going.
Out of 3,000 customers, you've got 136 open repair tickets?
No, so this is separate than the number of customers. So this could be a line coming from the node down to, say, a pedestal, which could feed hundreds of people.
But this is system maintenance in which there might have detected an issue that doesn't necessarily, causing a problem downstream, but which they're running through in order to keep the system up, try to improve performance. These are the things, some of the things that they're going out to look at. And again, we can go through this in a technical review that you're seeking and give you more detail. Perhaps, it's not, giving you the opportunity to tie into that review. We can provide you that information.
Mr. Hoke, we're glad to have you back. The other question is, how many open complaints or repair tickets, 3,000 customers, do you have right now?
Say repair tickets.
What's that, man?
Did you say how many repair tickets per customer?
How many open customer service complaints, customer repair tickets are out?
We'd have to get that to you. We'd have to get back to you on that.
So you can't tell me that either?
No,
Well, that
that
would be,
would,
yeah, and that would be separate tied to this. So it's, when we have a known outage, we don't place individual service tickets knowing that once we make that repair, the bulk of them will come back on. So, you know, some of these outstanding repairs will probably flush out a lot of other maintenance tickets if they have to have a certain ticket scheduled for the home.
All right, gentlemen, do you have, commissioners, do you have anything else for these folks you'd like to ask them? Commissioner Robertson obviously has some.
just, sir, for the record, just on the tax item, this was the first that I have knowledge of, and I understand, I do believe it was being handled through our tax department. So, you know, just with regard to anything we said tonight, we didn't have any direct knowledge of that. We don't know if there's a question of law that related to any issue in the past, but now that we're aware of it, we will coordinate with the tax department to find out the status of what was characterized tonight as delinquent payment. So I just wanted to clear that up, as well as dollar investment as well. That's again something that we were not didn't come with information on that. Again, Ms. Jones discussed some of the actual items that are being done in terms of maintenance. What the real dollar value of that over a period of time is, we're not sure. So I don't want to commit to anything that was said this evening as something that we knew. We had a definitive dollar amount on investment. But again, in terms of whatever review we do with you on going forward, we can definitely talk about the kind of items that we've done in the past and talk about the maintenance coming up. So I just wanted to put that on the record before we ended as well.
All right, so one of the things we want is, I want a list of your complaint log from October 1st to today's date. I want a list of the number of employees that you've had working in Pike County since October 1st, 2020. A list of all the independent contractors that are working here. We want to know how much money you've spent on infrastructure, upgrades, and repairs since January 1st, 2018. Either myself, council, will be following this up with a letter. We would strongly encourage you to take steps to get in compliance with our county laws. All right, at this time, any commissioners have anything else? Ronnie, you have anything else?
I just want to say to them, Judge, that the size of Pike County and the customer base they've got, they might consider they need to bring people in here to get in compliance.
I agree, and they need to take the steps to invest the money back into the system so we don't have to take steps and waste the resources. The fiscal court's got a lot of work to do. We're having to take our time and money to try to serve as de facto customer service representatives for Suddenlink, and that is not acceptable when they're generating the kind of revenue that they're obviously generating. And I think I can speak on behalf of all the commissioners. Commissioner Robertson and I've had numerous conversations over this, and this is not fair to the county, and we're not going to continue to allow this. I would point out to you, Mr. Hope, that your failure to comply with their occupational net profit laws could constitute grounds for termination of the franchise agreement under the ordinance. We don't want to have to terminate the franchise agreement. We want you to do what you need to do to fix these problems. And this court recognizes that there are going to be customer service issues. There's going to be outages from time to time. We take that into account. But of the two franchise holders here, Suddenlink and Intermountain Cable, We have very, very few complaints about Intermountain Cable with a larger service, a much larger service area. There's no way to even put in comparison the numbers of complaints that we have for Suddenlink versus Intermountain. It is substantially greater, and that's not acceptable, considering you have fewer customers. At this time, I would move that the court adopt the following resolution. A resolution that finding that Sequel 3 Communications 2 LLC has failed to comply with certain provisions of Ordinance 0-060704.014, that Sequel 3 Communications 2 LLC is in default of their obligation under the terms of its cable franchise agreement with the county, ordering that Sequel 3 Communications 2 LLC pay liquidated damages to Pike County, and authorizing Linda Ain, outside counsel, to send a letter to J.P. Morgan Chase, N.A., in the event Sequel 3 Communications 2 LLC fails to remit liquidated damages to the county within 10 days of receiving written notice. Whereas by ordinance Whereas by the ordinance, Pike County created a non-exclusive franchise for cable television system within the confines of the county. Whereas Sequel 3 Suddenlink holds a franchise in the county pursuant to the ordinance, whereas Suddenlink is doing business in Pike County under the name Suddenlink Communications. Whereas Section 10A2 of the ordinance provides that for failure to comply with Section 24, liquidated damages may be recoverable from the line of credit in the amount of $200 per day or part thereof, that the violation continues. Whereas Section 10A3 of the ordinance provides that for failure to do with any other provision of this ordinance, liquidated damages may be recoverable from the letter of credit in the amount of $100 per day or part thereof, that the violation continues. Whereas Section 10B of the ordinance provides before the county may assess any liquidated damages and before any sums are withdrawn from the letter of credit, the county shall give Suddenlink written notice and opportunity to be heard in accordance with the following procedure. The county shall notify Suddenlink in writing of an alleged failure to comply with the provisions of the ordinance as outlined in Section 10A, with which notice shall specify the alleged failure. Suddenlink shall, within 15 days after receipt of the notice, either cure the alleged failure or in written response to the Pike County Fiscal Court either present facts and arguments in refutation or excuse of such alleged failure, or state that the alleged failure will be cured and set forth the method and time schedule for accomplishing such cure. Tell you what, I'm getting a little bit. Mr. King, is he here? Couldn't see. Mr. King, County Attorney, I'm gonna let you pick up and finish reading this for just a second because my throat's getting a little bit scratchy. If you'll start with, I'll just hand you my copy.
Picking up at subsection 3. If Suddenlink fails to cure and or fails to notify the county as provided in the preceding paragraph within 15 days, the Pike County Fiscal Court shall hold a public hearing to determine whether or not any violation has occurred. Notice of such public hearing shall be sent out less than 7 days and no more than 21 days before the public hearing. 4. Following the public hearing and a majority vote of the Pike County Fiscal Court, finding that a failure to comply with the provision of the ordinance has occurred, the Pike County Fiscal Court may issue a written decision ordering liquidated damages in accordance with Section 10 of the ordinance. Whereas, as required by the Section 10B1 of the ordinance, Judge Executive Ray Jones notified Suddenlink by letter dated September 10, 2020 of the company's specific failures to comply with multiple provisions of the ordinance, including Section 7, Sections 8A, Section 8B, Section 24A, 24C, 24E, 24G, Section 25B2, Section 25B5, Section 25C3, and Section 25C4. The September 10, 2020 letter with attachments is attached here to as Exhibit 1. Whereas on October 15, 2020, Suddenlink sent a letter with attachments to Judge Executive Ray Jones. The October 15, 2020 letter is attached here to as Exhibit 2. Whereas after reviewing the October 15, 2020 letter, the county determined that Suddenlink had failed to cure its failure to comply with the following provisions of the ordinance: Section 7, Section 8A, Section 8B, Section 24A, Section 24C, Section 24E, 24G, 25B2, 25B5, 25C3, and Section 25C4, and or Suddenlink failed to present facts and arguments in refutation or excuse of such failure with said provisions of the ordinance, and or Suddenlink failed to state that its failure to comply with said provisions of the ordinance would be cured and set forth the method and the time schedule for accomplishing said cure. Whereas in light of the fact that Suddenlink failed to cure and or failed to present facts and arguments to refute or excuse of any such failure with the above mentioned provisions of the ordinance, and or failed to state that its failure to comply with said provisions of the ordinance will be cured and set forth the method and time schedule for accomplishing such cure, County Fiscal Court held a public hearing to determine whether or not any violation has occurred. Notice of said public hearing was emailed to Suddenlink on December 31st, 2020 and January 6, 2021, and published in the local newspaper on December 31, 2020 and January 8, 2021. Copies of the notices are attached hereto as Exhibit 3 and 4. Whereas on January 12, 2021, the Pike County Fiscal Court held a public hearing to determine whether or not any violation has occurred, whether Suddenlink is in default of its obligations under the terms of the cable franchise agreement between the county and Suddenlink, and determining whether Suddenlink should pay liquidated damages to the county. All interested parties, including Suddenlink, were given an opportunity to present evidence at the public hearing. And whereas pursuant to Section 10C of the ordinance, payment of liquidated damages shall not excuse non-performance under this ordinance. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Pike County Fiscal Court as follows. Section 1. After hearing all the evidence presented at the public hearing on January 12, 2021, pursuant to Section 10B4 of the ordinance, the County Fiscal Court finds that Suddenlink has failed to comply with the following provisions of the ordinance. A. Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 7 of the ordinance, which required Suddenlink to furnish to the county a certificate of insurance reflecting required coverages, signed renewal certificates for expiring policies, and new certificates of insurance if policies or carriers change during terms of their franchise, showing compliance with the ordinance. Attached to the October 15, 2020 letter were two certificates of insurance. Neither the evidence presented at the public hearing nor the statements in the October 15, 2020 letter cure Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 7 of the ordinance. The certificates attached to the October 15, 2020 letter do not cure Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 7 of the ordinance for the following reasons. 1. Sequel 3 Communication 2 LLC is not listed on either of the certificates attached to the October 15, 2020 letter. Because Exact Corporation is not listed on the certificates attached to the October 15, 2020 letter, there is no coverage. A policy endorsement as to additional insured party should have been provided. 2. The certificate dated August 14, 2006 expired on June 30, 2007. 3. Section 7C1E of the ordinance requires Suddenlink certificates of insurance to list as additional insureds Pike County, its elected appointed officials, employees, and to the extent they have an insurable interest, its agents, boards, consultants, assigns, volunteers, and successors in interest. The certificates attached to the October 15, 2020 letter notes only Pike County as the additional insured and does not contain the required endorsement. 4. The certificate dated October 15, 2020 contains a box stating that the county is additional insured. However, in the second box down from the top of the form, the certificate's language stating, quote, a statement on this certificate does not confer rights to assist certificate holder in lieu of such endorsement. This certificate clearly does not establish that the county and its elected and appointed officials, employees, and to the extent that they have an insurable interest, its agents, boards, consultants, assigns, volunteers, and successors in interest are additional insured as required. 5. The certificate dated October 15, 2020 states that Altice USA Incorporated and other named insureds have a self-insured retention for general liability. Said certificate has $1 million self-insurance retention that must be paid. Thus, if Suddenlink is unable to pay the first $1 million, the county will not have the required insurance protection. Because of its election to self-insurance for $1 million, Suddenlink has clearly not met the insurance requirement for general liability. B. Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 8A of the ordinance, which states that Suddenlink shall arrange for and shall deposit with the city a letter of credit from a financial institution, or a performance bond in the amount of $15,000. Suddenlink has also failed to comply with Section 8B of the ordinance, which states that the letter of credit or performance bond shall be maintained at $15,000 during the entire term of the franchise. Attached to the October 15, 2020 letter was a letter of credit dated August 18, 2015, which does not cure Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 8A and Section B of the ordinance for the following reasons. One, the letter of credit is issued solely to Sequel Communications LLC. Sequel 3 Communication 2 LLC was granted a franchise by the county. Sequel Communications LLC is not the franchise holder, and so this letter of credit does not bind the issuer to Sequel 3 Communication 2 LLC for potential default of the franchise agreement obligation, and therefore does not meet the requirements of this ordinance. 2, there is a typo.
That was on page 5, paragraph B, where it says, shall deposit with the city. This
Should say
is,
county.
should be county. I'm not sure where that came from, but it was a typo. And I'm going to make a pencil in that change on that.
Okay,
Please
that-
proceed.
That is the second line of subparagraph B on the bottom of page 5. Section 2, on page 6. The letter of credit states expires on July 31st, 2016. Letter of credit seems to indicate that it could be extended for additional one-year terms, but it also says that the issuer can terminate the letter on 30 days' notice. The language of the letter of credit is contradictory regarding its expiration term. C. Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 24A of the ordinance, which states that Suddenlink shall put, keep, and maintain all parts of the system in good condition throughout the entire franchise period. In September of 2020, the county compiled a list of complaints from Suddenlink customers, noted as county list of complaints. The county's list of complaints was attached to the September 10, 2020 letter. Additionally, Suddenlink attached a complaint log and a resolution of complaints to the October 15, 2020 letter, jointly referred to as the Suddenlink complaint logs. Both the county list of complaints and the Suddenlink complaint logs contain multiple examples of service interruption that Suddenlink's customers in the county have experienced. Clearly, Suddenlink has failed to put, keep, and maintain all parts of its cable system in good condition throughout the entire franchise period. Neither the evidence presented at the public hearing nor the statements in the October 15, 2020 letter cure Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 24A of the ordinance. D. Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 24C of the ordinance, which states that Suddenlink shall render efficient service, make repairs promptly, and interrupt service only for good cause and for the shortest time possible. Such interruptions, insofar as possible, shall be preceded by notice and shall occur during periods of minimum use. Both the county list of complaints and the Suddenlink complaint logs indicate that Suddenlink has repeatedly failed to render efficient service, make repairs promptly, and interrupt service only for good cause and for the shortest time possible. Both the county list of complaints and the Suddenlink complaint logs indicate Suddenlink customers in the county have experienced multiple service interruptions. Additionally, neither the county nor Suddenlink's customers have been given notice of service interruptions. Finally, most service interruptions are during the day and evening when most people watch television, not during periods of minimum system use. Neither the evidence presented at the public hearing nor the statements in the October 15, 2020 letter cure Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 24A of the ordinance. E. Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 24E of the ordinance, which states that Suddenlink shall continue through the term of the franchise to maintain the technical standards and quality of service set forth in this ordinance. Both the county list of complaints and the Suddenlink complaint logs indicate that Suddenlink has failed to maintain the technical standards and quality of service set forth in the ordinance. Neither the evidence presented at the public hearing nor the statements in the October 15, 2020 letter cure Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 24E of the ordinance. Section F, Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 24G of the ordinance, which states that Suddenlink may not add, substitute, or delete any programming or change or reposition any channels without first affording the county at least 30 days notice. The county's records show that since 2004, Suddenlink has not provided the county said notice of additions, substitutions, or deletions of any programming or any changes or repositions of any channel. Neither the evidence presented at the public hearing or the statements in the October 15, 2020 letter cure Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 24G of the ordinance. Section G, Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 25B2 of the ordinance, which states that at least 95% of the time, Suddenlink will begin working on service interruptions promptly and in no event later than 24 hours after the interruption becomes known. The county finds that Suddenlink has failed to meet this standard. Both the county list of complaints and the Suddenlink complaint logs indicate Suddenlink has failed to meet this standard. Additionally, both the county list of complaints and the Suddenlink complaint logs indicate that Suddenlink does not routinely begin working on service interruptions within the parameters set forth in the ordinance. Neither the evidence presented at the public hearing nor the statements in the October 15, 2020 letter cure Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 25B2 of the ordinance. H. Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 25B5 of the ordinance, which states that Suddenlink may not cancel an appointment with a customer after close of business on the business day prior to the scheduled appointment. The county list of complaints indicates that Suddenlink routinely cancels appointments after close of business on the day prior to the scheduled appointment time, or the technician fails to show without any cancellation. Additionally, the list of complaints indicate that Suddenlink subscribers in the county report that Suddenlink has canceled appointments after the close of business on the business day prior to customer scheduled appointment. Neither the evidence presented at the public hearing nor the statements in the October 15, 2020 letter cure Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 25B5 of the ordinance. Section I. Suddenlink has failed to comply with Section 25C3 and Section 25C4 of the ordinance, providing for credits and refunds. The list of complaints indicates that Suddenlink customers were unable to get either a refund or credit for service interruptions. In the October 15, 2020 letter, Suddenlink states it has provided refunds or credits to those on the list of complaints. However, it is clearly not Suddenlink's policy to do so routinely. Had the county not intervened, said refunds or credits would not have been made. Neither the evidence presented at the public hearing nor the statements in the October 15, 2020 letter cure Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 25C3 and 25C4 of the ordinance. Section 2. Because of its failure to comply with Section 7, Section 8A, Section 8B, 24A, 24C, 24E, 24G, 25B2, 25B5, 25C3, 25C4 of this ordinance, as outlined above, Suddenlink is in default of its obligations under the terms of the cable franchise agreement between the county and Suddenlink, and the county fiscal court hereby issues this written decision ordering liquidated damages in accordance with Section 10B4 of the ordinance. Section 3. Pursuant to Section 10A2 of the ordinance, for Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 24A of the ordinance, liquidated damages are hereby assessed and are recoverable as of the date of this resolution from the letter of credit in the amount of $200 per day or part thereof that the violation continues. Section 4. Pursuant to Section 10A2 of the ordinance, for Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 24C of ordinance, liquidated damages are hereby assessed and are recoverable as of the date of this resolution from the letter of credit in the amount of $200 per day or part thereof that the violation continues. Section 5. Pursuant to Section 10A2 of the ordinance, for Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 24E of the ordinance, liquidated damages are hereby assessed and are recoverable as of the date of this resolution from a letter of credit in the amount of $200 per day or part thereof that the violation continues. Section 6. Pursuant to Section 10A2 of the ordinance, for Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 24G of the ordinance, liquidated damages are hereby assessed and are recoverable as of the date of this resolution from the letter of credit in the amount of $200 per day or part thereof that the violation continues. Section 6. Pursuant to Section 10A3 of the ordinance, for Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 7 of the ordinance, liquidated damages are hereby assessed and are recoverable as of the date of this resolution from the letter of credit in the amount of $100 per day or part thereof that the violation continues. Section 7. Pursuant to Section 10A3 of the ordinance, for Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 8A of ordinance, liquidated damages are hereby assessed and are recoverable as of the date of this resolution from the letter of credit in the amount of $100 per day or part thereof that the violation continues. Section 8. Pursuant to Section 10A3 of the ordinance, for Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 8B of the ordinance, liquidated damages are hereby assessed and are recoverable as of the date of this resolution from the letter of credit in the amount of $100 per day any part or day thereof, that the violation continues. Section 9, pursuant to Section 10A3 of the ordinance, for Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 25B2 of the ordinance, liquidated damages are hereby assessed and are recoverable as of the date of this resolution from a letter of credit in the amount of $100 per day or part thereof, that the violation continues. Section 10, pursuant to Section 10A3 of the ordinance, for Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 25B5 of the ordinance, liquidated damages are hereby assessed and are recoverable as of the date of this resolution from the letter of credit in the amount of $100 per day or part thereof, that the violation continues. Section 11, pursuant to Section 10A3 of the ordinance, for Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 25C3 of the ordinance, liquidated damages are hereby assessed and are recoverable as of the date of this resolution from the letter of credit in the amount of $100 per day or part thereof, that the violation continues. Section 12, pursuant to Section 10A3 of the ordinance, for Suddenlink's failure to comply with Section 25C4 of the ordinance, liquidated damages are hereby assessed and are recoverable as of the date of this resolution from the letter of credit in the amount of $100 per day or part thereof, that the violation continues. Section 12, the individual liquidated damage assessments set forth above, and as they may continue hereafter, are assessed cumulatively on a daily basis and are recoverable from a letter of credit. Section 14, Linda Ain, outside counsel, is hereby directed to send via certified mail return receipt request a copy of this resolution and a written notice to Suddenlink to pay the county the liquidated damages due the county. Pursuant to Section 8C of the ordinance, if Suddenlink fails after receipt of 10 days written notice to pay the county the liquidated damages due, Linda Ain is directed and authorized to send a letter to J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, and so many times thereafter that any defaults continue, stating that Suddenlink is in default of its obligations under the terms of the cable franchise agreement between the county and Suddenlink, and that the county therefore draws the amounts of liquidated damages that the county fiscal court has assessed by this resolution under J.P. Morgan Chase Bank letter of credit TFTS-843315. Upon such request for payment, Linda Ain shall notify Suddenlink of the amount and date thereof. After the letter of credit has been exhausted, the demand shall be made upon Suddenlink for payment of the damages. Section 15, that the statements set forth in the preamble of this resolution are hereby incorporated in this resolution by reference, the same as if set forth at length herein. Section 16, that if any section, sentence, clause, or phrase of this resolution is held to be unconstitutional or otherwise invalid, such infirmity shall not affect the validity of the remainder of the resolution. Section 17, that this resolution shall be effective on the date of its passage, passed by the fiscal court, signed by the judge, and attested.
Okay. It appears on page 11, there's one typo. We've got section 12, which starts out pursuant to section 10A3, and then the next section is incorrectly also numbered as section 12. It should be section 13, so I've penciled that change in as a correction. With those two drafting errors out of the way in the 12-page document with my old eyes, that's not too bad. So anyway, I'm going to withdraw my motion on the resolution, and given the fact that this issue has disproportionately impacted Commissioner Robertson and Commissioner Tackett's district, I would ask one of them if they have a motion to adopt the resolution that has been read by Kevin King, Pike County Attorney.
Motion.
Beat you to it, Ronnie. We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. You two can fight over that one here later tonight. Is there any question or discussion or any comment, or would any of the commissioners like to address this further?
I think we've had a pretty good discussion here this evening. I think it's just Suddenlink needs to get in compliance with us.
I agree.
We have to take care of our taxpayers, and they pay good money for this TV, and they need to be treated right. So I think it's in Suddenlink's ball field now.
Commissioner Tackett.
It's tough times for everybody. I mean, we know that ourselves. But these people are paying good money and not getting good service. Something's got to change.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Booth, anything else you'd like to add?
I just think Suddenlink's getting plenty of money out of the people in Pike County. It's time for them to improve service.
Well said. All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Tackett to adopt the resolution. We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. Seeing no other question or discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. The resolution is adopted. Ms. Aim will prepare a letter to Suddenlink with the request for additional information and also advising Suddenlink of the filing of the passing of the resolution, the finding that they are in violation of the county's cable television franchise ordinance, and advising them that the court has imposed sanctions as per the ordinance. So we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda. I want to thank everyone who has tuned in. Ms. Milam, thank you so much for staying on. I know it's getting late. We've been here now for 3.5 hours, and we want to thank everyone who has tuned in. I want to thank Pike TV and Judge Hickman for helping put together this Zoom hearing. We had hoped that there would be a few more people, but a lot of people, if you go on the Pike TV feed, were having trouble getting into it because of internet problems. So again, thank you all for helping put this together. And CJ, thank you very much. It's much appreciated. Everyone who helped make this possible. It is a technological first where we've held a fiscal court meeting and a public hearing with Zoom. And we have held our county attorney our county clerk here longer than she anticipated. Ms. Taylor, would you please come on? We need a quick recess to switch cameras out. So Rhonda, while you're coming on up, we'll let them switch the cameras out and then we'll move on with it. Okay. We'll call the court back to order, and we have our county clerk here, Rhonda Taylor. Rhonda, sorry to have to keep you waiting tonight. And when we yelled for you, you walked in about two minutes after we finished with the sheriff. Want to thank you for getting the county clerk's offices back open. We're glad to help work with you on that. And we appreciate everything you're doing for the county under very difficult circumstances. You have presented your general term order, your budget for the 2021 calendar year, and it appears to be in order except for one typo on where it's got 947,574.80 when it should be 974,574.80. And I've penciled that in. If you'll bring in a corrected copy of it tomorrow, I'll sign it. It would be my motion that the fiscal court acknowledge receipt of the Pike County Clerk's budget for 2021. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. Rhonda, would you like to take an opportunity to just update everybody on what's going on with the clerk's office? And
Judge, thank you so much. Thank you, guys. I would have been here earlier, but I was under the assumption, because you guys called, that we would be presenting the budget after the Suddenlink. So I was downstairs. We don't close till 4:30, so I thought I would hang with them until, I thought I had time, but I'd been here earlier had I known.
well, we were just going, as a courtesy, try to get you out of here.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for your letter on December 29th, allowing me to open the courthouses back up. I appreciate that. And I know all the people out in the county appreciate that. Today was our first day back at Belfry. I'd like to thank all the people that reside in the Belfry area for turning out today. We got a good show of support. It was a good day. I want to thank Mike Taylor. He'll be allowing us to come back into the City Hall in Elkhorn City. They have that closed, I think, to the public, and he's going to allow us to just come in that day, and we'll be the only ones, if I'm not mistaken, in the courthouse for safety purposes. We all know we're trying to get through the COVID. Most of my family's had it. A lot of people in the office have had it. We had it right before the election and had to shut down like, many counties had to do. But I want to thank the people for that too. It was a great turnout. Everybody followed protocol for the primary and the general, and I was pleased with that. As far as the budget, I appreciate y'all approving it. There is something I would like to discuss on that though. We do have a surplus of $91,000. That is very unusual, and it's due because of the COVID. That's why we had that money. We had to follow the regulations and the rules from the governor's office and reduce our staff. Normally, we would not have had that. So I just want the public to know that that's why we have that surplus. Otherwise, I don't know, we would have broke even at least. So I wanted them to know that. I just want to thank everybody for all the support they've gave me, and a lot of phone calls and texts and messages and people that swung by the office. And I'm just happy. We're very happy to be open back up. That was a goal, and we made it happen. And so here we are, and we're moving forward.
Listen, we appreciate everything that you've been through. I want to give just an update. I want to explain to the people why we felt it necessary to close some of the facilities and why it is going to be very important for you, our office, the sheriff, county attorney's office, all of us to be extremely careful. Tammy Riley just sent me the updated information, and I think this is very important. And I hope people are tuning into this, and I hope the press picks up on it. We currently have 1,477 active COVID cases in Pike County. A few of those will be released tomorrow. We have 38 confirmed deaths, and we've had a total of 3,855 cases of COVID. Now, here's the scary part. In October, we had 560 cases. In November, we had 908. In December, we had 1,289. Through 12 days, and we don't have all the numbers in for today, let me caution you, this will not include the after-hours clinic and the urgent care clinic numbers. So far, we've had 729 cases in less than 12 days. So if you do go to the clerk's office, if you do go out to a public place, we have maintained social distancing here, and if you're not speaking, we ask everybody to wear their mask. It is extremely important that we try to contain this. People are being vaccinated, but it's not being done fast enough. And Rhonda, I think some of these people are getting very, very sick with this.
Yeah, they are.
The weird thing, some people are asymptomatic, some people have a runny nose, and other people end up on a ventilator. We don't know why.
My son has it currently as we speak, and my daughter-in-law's had it.
So 729 cases in less than 12 days. So at that rate, we could easily hit 1,800 cases this month. So please take every precaution so that we can protect our families. The impact on the economy is significant. And again, we appreciate everything you've done. You had a very hard election cycle, and it's not over yet, unfortunately. So
well, it was hard, but you know what? We got through it. We always managed to push through somehow. So.
Rhonda, we appreciate you. Thank you very much.
You.
Have a good evening. All right, the next item on the agenda is adoption of a resolution authorizing participation and ratifying prior participation of the Pike County Fiscal Court with the Department of Army Corps of Engineers for the design construction of Pike County, Kentucky, Leviza Fork Basin flood damage reduction project, and authorizing the county judge, executive, and other Pike County Fiscal Court officials to act for and on behalf of the Fiscal Court in executing, accepting, or otherwise approving all documents, agreements, instruments, or other necessary papers required by the Department of Army to implement said participation in the project. Mr. Downey, Colonel Downey, I should say, would you come to the podium? You have reviewed the agreement?
Judge, I've reviewed the agreement, and for the court, this is basically, I think you all talked about this project several weeks ago. But in order for the Corps of Engineers to work directly with the judge, we need to do this resolution authorizing Judge Jones to sign the documentations and things like that that they'll need to go forward. And it is in compliance, and it's pretty much a routine piece of paperwork that we need to ask you all to review and approve.
Is there a motion to adopt the resolution? Motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robertson. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Next item, we can skip over that. The next item is the authorization to execute a lease and options to purchase for the property located at Ford Mountain and Scott Fork. Now, this is 2 tracts of land, and I'll go into each one of these briefly. First of all, the RH Group, its subsidiary or affiliated entity, has deeded to the fiscal court the surface and mineral that we need to begin construction on the landfill expansion. The RH Group from the prior courts already had leases on both of these tracts of land. And they are in the process of trying to develop an economic development project both at Scott Fork and also the solar farm that has been in the press on top of Ford Mountain. And those properties were leased to them by the prior administration. We reformed the Scott Fork lease to comply with the law by changing it from a 99-year lease to a 40-year lease. The lease that we have here tonight will increase the Ford Mountain lease to a 40-year lease because they will not be able to get financing on the solar farm or move forward with that without a long-term lease. We also have on the agenda an option to allow them to purchase each tract for fair market value at an appraiser that is chosen by the court. And under KRS 67.0802, the county can convey economic development or property, real property, for economic development purposes. And what we have put in the options is that they would have to pay us fair market value, and it would only be exercisable if the fiscal court approved it as an economic development, bona fide economic development project. We're doing this to comply with the statute to protect the taxpayer, in that we do not, it wouldn't be right to just give somebody an option, let them go shop it to somebody else, exercise the option, sell it, and make money. What this would do is if they come up and present an economic development plan that this court or a future court finds meets the economic development needs of the county in terms of job creation, they can exercise that option. If, however, it has what we refer to as a clawback provision. If they exercise the option on either the Scott Fork property or the Ford Mountain property, then in 5 years, if that project is not under construction or in the works, the county could then claw the property back by repaying the same amount that the county was paid for it. Given the fact that they already have a lease for 40 years at Scott Fork, the best opportunity for economic development for that property is to work with the current leaseholder and give them the option that if they do, for purposes of obtaining financing and making the project happen, they need to buy the property or have a fee simple ownership interest, then they could exercise that option. My opinion is that the Ford Mountain property has a limited value. We have had it appraised, but one thing that wasn't factored in is this property sits right above the landfill. And Commissioner Robertson and I were over there with Judge Hickman. Judge, were you with us? You'd be glad you missed that trip, because Commissioner Robertson and Mr. Little, the road supervisor, and I were over there the other day. And it was actually Chuck Morley, our solid waste manager. And we drove up to look at this property, and it was a cold day, but the odor from the landfill would really, really knock you down. And that property is the value of that property, in my opinion, is impacted by the fact that it adjoins a landfill, and the smell and odor from the landfill is really, would preclude that property from being used for any other purpose. Now, I have asked Colonel Downey, if you'll come up for a second, under KRS 67.0802, before a county can convey property or dispose of property, there has to be findings. Given the fact that the prior court, I'm not sure if those findings were done, but given the fact that the property was already leased, we're simply changing the terms of the lease. Roy, is your legal opinion that we need to do the findings since they already have the leases that were executed previously?
No, I think we just need to execute the leases, which is something we've talked about before. And the only thing I would say, Judge, is the only real difference in the terms is in the one that's above the landfill. We are keeping the right to access, so if we have to go in and do any work on the gas lines, we are keeping that. The other language the judge talked about goes to both of them. The clawback provision, if they don't use it, we have also retained the right, if they buy this property and something happens, before they could sell it to anybody else, they have to give us the right to repurchase it before they could ever attempt to sell it to a third party.
Or if they don't develop it.
Or if they don't develop it.
If they don't develop it within 5 years.
Right, there's some clawback so that the county could take it back, so.
And also, we have the right-of-way besides the gas line around the top of the ridge to the landfill, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If that's not in there, we'll clarify that, but we need to make sure that is clarified, that we have a right to access the property.
We have looked, and the judge, Hickman knows a little bit more about this, I think, than I do. There is a area where the landfill will not be extended that far, but we'll still have that so that they can go around and work on it. Isn't that correct?
We need to put a provision in there to clarify that we have an easement to access the property and do any work necessary to maintain the landfill.
Okay.
So, Mr. King, you're also good with both of these? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I know we had a slide problem up there once, had some water running over, and we need to be able to stop that if it happens again, so we.
Well, Mr. King will tell you I'm not the best property lawyer you're ever gonna meet, so I'm gonna let Roy and Kevin work that one out. All right, so is there a motion to authorize the execution of the leases as described with the options to purchase for the property located at Ford Mountain and Scott Fork, and authorization for the county judge to execute?
Motion.
Ronnie, authorization for the county judge to execute the lease amendments and the options. Motion by Commissioner Robertson.
Motion again.
Okay. We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Robertson. Is there another second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Mr. Colonel Downey, I keep saying Mr., it's Colonel Downey. When you have a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart, it's Colonel Downey. Colonel Downey, could you come back up to the podium and explain the next item, which is authorization to execute the Second Amendment to the ground lease with RAHF Ford Douglas LLC on the Carl D. Perkins apartment complex?
As the court's aware, they are doing the financing and all the stuff up there with that. This is another one of those agreements that we have to agree to just technically get the paperwork done so that everything can get signed off and we can get approved for the, because technically what it is, the county owns the land, and then the buildings and stuff like that are owned by this other group that manage it and take care of it. So this is just one of those paperworks that we need to do to authorize things to continue to go on so we can sign off on things.
All right, sir. Is there a motion to authorize the amendment to the lease as Colonel Downey has described?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Booth. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. Next item is approval to hire a trail development coordinator, and I'd like to yield to Commissioner Robertson or Commissioner Tackett on this one.
Judge, this time, we think that it's time we put somebody in the field full-time and put somebody in this position. We're gonna have a meeting Thursday. Ronnie, you wanna?
Well, we've not met in how many weeks?
6 weeks? Is that what it is, Sharon?
6.
6, yeah. Right, it's not we're just trying to just get everything back up going.
Yeah, it's not a, I guess, the people we had on the board is what's gonna meet Thursday. And, we're gonna talk about this, and I'm like Jason, it's time to get somebody on the ground and, start acquiring this property. Like I said, we're really more than 6 weeks behind, but, the COVID and stuff has put us way behind, so.
Snowstorm, COVID, Christmas, Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and, so we're ready to get this moving.
Suddenlink.
Yeah, Suddenlink.
So do you all want to, I know you've got somebody in mind, or suspect you have somebody in mind. Are you going to wait till after, do you want to wait till the next court meeting after you've been able to provide some details on this individual or individuals?
Yes, that's what we'd like to do.
Yes, that's what we'd like to do, Judge.
So we'll pass over this, and I envision this would be an independent contractor that we wouldn't have to provide benefits or retirement for, is that correct?
No retirement.
No retirement,
benefits,
no benefits.
no vehicle to drive.
And from month to month.
Month to month, I agree with that. All right, so we'll pass over that one. We also have on here approval for appointments to the Pike County Housing Authority and the Mountain Water District Board. I am not prepared to submit nominations for that at this time. I simply haven't had an opportunity to do that. So those are two things that we probably, if there's no objection, I would ask that we pass those to the next meeting. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
All right, that moves us to awarding of bids to Mr. Fannin. Lisa, did we call the roll on this or not? Been here 4 hours. I can't remember if we did or not. On the Douglas Apartments. Yeah. Thanks for 4 hours. This is getting to be. All right. Mr. Fannin.
I haven't had any bid opening since our last meeting. I do have a bid opening this Friday for a van for the detention center, but it's my understanding this court has some equipment they're interested in purchasing.
Okay. We are in the process to put a bid out for 2 pickup trucks with electric salt spreaders and blades. We have to replace, and I think the commissioners have really been on top of this, that we've got some of these pickup trucks. And I think it's important for the public to know that some of these pickup trucks that were financed by a prior administration, we're still paying for, and they're 6 or 7 years old. Is that correct?
We had a huge lease that also had the mini packers in it that we ended up paying off out of the lease. But I think that was an 84-month lease, and that's just way too long for that type of vehicle.
Well, those are the newest ones we have.
Right.
Yeah. And, some of these, Commissioner Robertson and I were over at the maintenance garage, and there was one truck that's on the road, and literally, if we can get through the winter with this truck, we're going to be lucky. And I think it's easy. When you're using these trucks to put salt down, even if they're properly maintained, that salt eats them up. It's just a fact. So we've got 2 trucks that we're putting bids out for. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And have you obtained prices for, or recommendations on the salters and spreaders?
I
I'm
have some
sorry,
quotes.
Salters and the blades.
Salters and blades. I got some quotes today. I've got a couple other companies I'm still waiting to get quotes on. Now, some of these companies have some of this equipment on co-op contracts. Some of these other companies I'm getting quotes from don't. So it may be, we may be to a point where we might need to bid both those.
So
the salt spreaders and the blades.
So what I would recommend we do is if you'll get the information that you have so far to Fabian Little, our road supervisor, and then he can get it to the commissioners, Judge Hickman and myself, and then we can, at the next court meeting, we can undertake and have a discussion about which ones we want. And hopefully by that time, you'll have the other information in from the other vendors.
How long will it be before we get our 2 trucks in?
Well, the bids will go out when, Greg?
The bid for the trucks will be advertised Friday. The bid opening will be next Friday, and then it will be the next court meeting when I present it to the court.
End of the month.
Okay.
Two's better than nothing.
That's all. I mean, it's going to be hard to find those.
We need to keep digging.
I mean, and we've talked to different dealers to see what's out there. We've talked to Walters Ford. I mean, these trucks are nearly impossible. I mean, you can drive by almost any new car dealership, and I don't care what make or what make you're looking at. There's very few cars or trucks on these lots. COVID has had a huge impact on suppliers, assembly, and but Greg's worked really hard trying to get everything put together so we can get 2 on the road as quick as we can.
I have reached out to a lot of places. I reached out to the place we had found a couple of trucks in Mount Sterling a month or so ago, and he's on the look for us. I've talked with some other dealerships, but I think there's a couple that we can get. Now, something that I did when I wrote this bid, I think we were planning on or wanting 6 trucks in total. I wrote this bid package for 6 trucks. If we just get 2 trucks from this bid, that'll allow us to do a non-competitive negotiation for 4 more as they become available, and won't have to go through the advertising and court approval to do that.
So would you prefer talking about those blades and spreaders tonight, or would you prefer?
I don't have all that information with me. I assumed that we would try to bid that. But if the court authorized me to bid that, I could do that and get it in the paper Friday and have the bid opening next Friday also.
You're talking about the blades and spreaders?
Blades and spreaders.
Well, unless you can get them on co-op. I mean, I don't know how you want to do that.
I can get them on co-op. As I was checking with these dealers and getting quotes for them, I was asking about a lead time on them, and about all of them said they could have them to us within 2 to 3 weeks.
Greg, are there different? I mean, I don't know anything about. Probably Commissioner Booth would probably know more about this because he's got so much experience.
Hey, Judge, can Fabian
Little.
Mr. Little, come up here.
In the last week, I've gone through a huge learning curve myself, Judge.
I mean,
I'm not a.
Mr. Little, you can have a seat right over there, and we'll keep you 2 at least 10 feet apart. So the question is, Fabian, do you know what you prefer, the type? And
Yeah, I do.
Why don't
In the plow version, it would be the Western brand. It's a brand that the county has used for as long as I can remember, and we have great service out of those. Those are tough. They're tough plows.
What'd you say, Commissioner?
They are.
Okay.
And then in the Salter brand, that Saudi dog is a good. It's a good box.
Okay, so can you get those blades that he's talking about, the Western?
Yeah, what I've got quotes on 2 or 3 different places on the Western. It's a 7.5-foot blade. It has the halogen light kit on it. It has the control with it, a few other things I can't remember right offhand. Also, Western also makes the spreaders. Henderson makes, or the salters. Western makes the salters, and Henderson makes the salters. From what I understand, they're very similar.
Does Western make but does Western make the electric?
Yeah, it is electric. That's what I've got quotes. And these quotes have been real close, and about all of them that I've got so far, to put the Western 7.5-foot blade like we use, and put the 8-foot 2 cubic yard capacity spreader in the back. To set up each truck, it's a little over $10,000, the quotes I've got.
So why don't we do this? You just want to go ahead and put them out to bid since we got the trucks?
I assume that would be the best way. Here's the thing, we've got 2 trucks. We've got 2 trucks that we'll be able to access after the court meeting following next Friday. So it's going to be a couple of weeks before we can get our trucks at least. I could put a bid package out, have it in the paper Friday, and bid opening next Friday, and could have the salters pretty quick after that. So really, by the time we can have the trucks within just a short period, a few days, we could have the salters and blades. So if we go ahead and bid the salters and blades, it wouldn't hold us up.
Okay. Is everybody okay with just go ahead and bidding them? Yeah. It saves us a little bit of money. It's worth doing it. So go ahead and get that done. Greg, anything else tonight, sir?
I think that's all.
Mr. Little, anything else? All right. So I'm going to skip over the road supervisor's report since we did that last time. Our treasurer is not here tonight. Is there any need for executive session tonight? No need for executive session after a 4-hour meeting. We're going to skip over that. We're going to skip over Pike County Department Supervisor's comments unless Mr. Morley has anything he needs to talk to us about. Judge Hickman, anything? Thank you very much for your hard work on this public hearing, the technology that you and the folks from the CJ and the folks from Pike TV were able to put together to make this a possibility, a reality. We appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Judge. There's also a bunch of people that help in the testing phase for this. We had several hours of testing, Chuck and Stephanie, Doug Tackett as well, and the folks at Eastern Telephone, Matt and Reese.
Well, we greatly appreciate y'all. All right, Mr. Keene, anything, sir? Colonel Downey, anything? All right. We'll start with County Commissioner's comments, and we'll start with District 1 Commissioner Ronnie Roberts.
I just really want to say that keep the Thacker family in your prayers. I grew up beside those girls. They were very good neighbors. I know she was quite a bit younger than I was, but we all lived in the same neighborhood there. Her parents was good people, and we needed to keep them in our prayers and keep Thomas in our prayers.
Commissioner, thank you very much. Commissioner Jason Tackett.
Agree with you, Commissioner. We need to keep our whole county in prayer. We're going through some time. You know, you mentioned some numbers there a while ago. Whether you believe it's real, whether you believe it's not, you know, it's here. It's on our doorstep, and just think these guys out here picking up this garbage, working through this weather. You know, when nobody else will do it, they're there picking it up. Judge, that's all I got to say tonight.
Commissioner Tackett, thank you very much. Commissioner Booth.
Judge, that's one thing I'd like to say, that I think we need to remember our county and our country. It seems like I'd say there ain't nobody here that don't know somebody that's got COVID right now. I mean, I've got family members. I'm sure a lot of people does. So let's just remember our family, remember our country as a whole, and remember the Thacker family especially.
Thank you very much.
I have one other thing to say.
Yes, sir.
And it goes with, and it's about this COVID. You know, and you hear some people say, yeah, it's real, it's not, or whatever. But who wants to take a chance on picking that 1%, whether you die with it or you got a runny nose with it? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't, you know, the way my luck goes, it wouldn't be, I'd be that 1% that didn't make it, you know. But that's what people's got to need to keep in their mind and think about is, you know, what are you doing? Are you just the percentage-wise?
Well, that's a good way of putting it, because, I mean, you're playing Russian roulette with the virus. And, you know, we've had some scares in my family. We've had several employees here at the court was critically ill. And, you know, it's just been a scary time. Commissioner Booth. Anything else? There's a few things I do want to mention. I do want to mention the Thomas Thacker's family. It is a terrible, terrible tragedy for him to lose his wife at such a young age. The Phelps community lost an outstanding person a few weeks ago with Gano Stiltner. I mean, that man put so much of his heart and soul into the Phelps community, into youth sports and football. We've lost a lot of distinguished citizens here in Pike County, and we want to ask the folks out there to remember that family. There's so many families that have been impacted here lately. A dear friend of mine, Dr. Bill Fannin, his wife Debbie lost their son Christmas. Our hearts go out to them. Paul and I think the world of Dr. Fannin and his wife. We go to the same church, and it's just a lot of people are hurting right now, and our country's hurting. And whether you're a Democrat or Republican, there's just a lot of people. When people go on Facebook and they complain and all this, there's families out there that really do have stuff to complain about. Families that have loved ones that are sick. Families that have lost loved ones, and our efforts will be better spent focusing on what we can do to help those in need, help those people who are sick or struggling with something. We know what our county's had happen with drug addiction. I mean, it's affected family after family, and when you pick the newspaper up today and you see 2 couples arrested for child endangerment, those kind of charges. Our country's in trouble, and I think it's fair to say that when you, as a country, don't put God first, that those things happen. And a lot of the challenges we have, I think we need to band together. We need to love one another and try to help one another. And it's been a hard. Last year was a hard year. This year's not starting out any better. And the other day, I said, I can't wait till this year was over. And I thought, well, we're only 8 days into it or 9 days. We still have some challenging times ahead. There's some people I do want to brag on, though. I want to brag, first of all, on Chuck Morley and Stephanie Clevenger. Our solid waste system was in really bad shape when this administration came in. They didn't have equipment to work with. The landfill, Larry Hensley, I need to mention Larry. Our landfill was in bad shape. It was filling up, and with their work, we've put new vehicles on the road. We've put employees that are more accountable. We have made it more efficient. We have saved money for the ratepayers, the customers. I do think we've taken care of the Monday holiday problem. And the number that I'm going to tell you is astounding. We have identified and picked up over 2,000 new customers in solid waste. That's not because 2,000 people moved to Pike County. We're still losing population. But we have identified people who were using the service and weren't paying for it. And for those people, particularly senior citizens and people on fixed income who were struggling to pay the bills, it's only fair. As Judge Hickman says, everybody has to pay something. If you utilize the system, you have to pay. And we had a lot of people that weren't doing that, and that jeopardized the future of Pike County solid waste. But I do think it's in good hands. I think it's been it's been a lot of work, and I think the leadership by the commissioners has been just, I can't thank you all enough. What we don't agree on everything, and I can tell you, unless you've been chewed out by Ronnie Robertson, you've not been chewed out. I weighed about 10 pounds a couple weeks ago more than I do now, and he took care of that. He chewed me pretty good. We try to hold each other accountable, but we're trying, somebody said, well, why don't you all get on there and argue and stuff? Well, that's not what our goal is, not to go in here and make a spectacle. We're trying to move the county forward. We're trying to do this the right way. We're trying to do everything by the book, and we're doing it out here in the public so the public can know what we're dealing with. I do think it is a great thing that we have the deed to the mineral under the landfill, because that was a holdup on the expansion permit. That permit package should go in this week. So I want to thank the commissioners for their hard work. It's been a team effort. And like I said, we don't always agree, but, you know, we don't plan on coming out here and airing our grievances publicly. If one of us has something to say to each other, we'll say it. We'll say it to the other one. But we're making sure that we're doing everything in the public transparently. I want to thank Jeff, your hard work on the Suddenlink, and Justin for trying to help the folks who have been impacted by that. It's been a long night. We've been here almost 4.5 hours. And again, thank you all very much. Thanks to the commissioners. And I don't think we have any other business to come before the court, except we do have benediction. And I would like to ask, is there any other business to come before the court? Anything else? I'd like to ask my friend Jerry Huffman, my brother, to come up here if he would say the benediction for us tonight. This is a guy that's been a friend of mine for a long, long time, and a dear friend. So I'd like to ask Jerry to come up and say the benediction.
Heavenly Father, we'd like to thank Thee for this time that we have been able to take care of the business of this county. And we pray that You'll watch over us as we go to our separate homes. Watch over us, lead and guide, and keep us in that care. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Booth. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes, we are adjourned.